The hunt is on under a relentless downpour as soldiers with axes and spears scour every inch of the dark woods, closing in on their prey through the tangled, wet branches. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminates the scene as a high-ranking knight corners Eugene, hoisting him up with a brutal blade that pierces right through his body. The knight can't help but gloat, his single glowing eye fixed on Eugene's bloodied face as he mocks the vampire for thinking he could ever truly outsmart the church's elite. With another violent movement, Eugene is cast down into the mud, his lifeblood spilling out while the knight demands he die with pride so he can claim the title of Vampire Slayer. It's a humiliating end as Eugene's vision begins to blur, the knight's wide-mouthed laughter ringing out through the rain, reveling in a victory he says was planned from the start. The truth comes out in a cruel twist. They weren't unable to find him, they were just taking their time to let him run so they could set a terrifying example for any other non-believers. Despite a desperate, final attempt to reach out with his claws, Eugene is forced to accept the harsh reality that in this world, the strong decide everything, and he simply wasn't strong enough. A blinding light tears through him, a fatal vertical slash splitting his mask and ending Eugene's long, terrified flight from his inevitable death. As his vision fades and blood coats the screen, the crushing weight of regret sets in, and Eugene realizes that his entire approach to survival was a mistake from the very beginning. Even as his hand falls limp and the knight continues to spout his religious judgment, Eugene's last conscious thought is a desperate plea for one more chance to fix his life. At that moment, he bolts upright in a dim, quiet tent, gasping for air and clutching his chest as if he's just escaped a nightmare he was never supposed to wake up from. He frantically checks his neck and his bandaged arms and legs, absolutely stunned to find that the lethal wounds from the battlefield have completely disappeared. Looking around at the familiar, ragged fabric of his shelter, he realizes this isn't a dream. The dozens of tally marks scratched into the wood confirm he's back to exactly 6 months ago. The impossible has actually happened. He's returned to the past, and he clenches his bandaged fist with a newfound, burning determination to survive. The scene shifts to the serene mountains near Broadwin Village, the very forest where Eugene had spent over a decade living in total isolation to stay away from humans. For years, he lived a pathetic life as a weak vampire, refusing to crave human blood and scurrying through the undergrowth while mercenaries crawled all over the area. But no matter how deep he buried himself or how long he waited, the holy knights with their glowing helms were always destined to hunt him down. For 12 long years, he survived on nothing but animal blood out of sheer fear, a choice that left him far too weak to defend himself when it finally mattered. He realizes now that if lying low and being good still leads to a gruesome death, he has to get strong enough that no one can ever kill him again. From this point on, Eugene is changing his survival plan entirely, standing over a dark swamp as he realizes a vampire is only as powerful as the blood they consume. Eugene can feel the pressure in the air shift as the local apex predator finally decides to make its grand entrance. This isn't just a monster, it's a living mountain of teeth and hunger lunging forward with a mouth wide enough to swallow him whole. He barely manages to throw himself aside as the beast's massive head crashes into the dirt, missing him by a hair's breadth. My bad, he doesn't have hair. The roamer doesn't let up, its 4 eyes glowing with malice as it fires concentrated beams of energy that tear up the ground around him. Eugene knows his current body is a total wreck, but he's already eyeing the creature's blood as his only way to power up. Deciding that hiding is no longer an option, he takes a massive leap, aiming a desperate strike at the monster's armored hide. His heart sinks when his sword simply shatters against the creature's skin, leaving him completely defenseless in midair. With one casual swipe, the beast bats him away like a bothersome fly, sending him tumbling through the mud and brush. Coughing up blood, Eugene realizes he seriously underestimated just how much raw power a roamer of this level possesses. He doesn't even have time to recover before those massive, dripping jaws loom over him for the final blow. These aren't your typical dungeon monsters. Roamers are ancient beasts that carry mana stones more precious than any gem. He watches the creature stomp through the swamp, knowing that if he can just get his hands on its core, he might stand a chance. Death is staring him right in the face as the monster's teeth close in, smelling of rot and impending doom. A massive shockwave erupts as the beast pins him down, the sheer force of its presence crushing the very ground beneath them. As he's dragged into the dark, wet gullet of the predator, Eugene realizes this is his one and only chance to turn the tide. He spent his entire life crawling in the shadows and holding his breath just to see another day, but that won't save him now. He's shoved deep into the beast's throat, struggling against the suffocating pressure of being swallowed alive by the forest's ruler. From inside the monster's mouth, Eugene finally snaps, his body erupting with glowing runes as he decides to fight back with everything he has. The frail old man vanishes, replaced by a surge of muscle and long hair as he begins to tear the beast apart from the inside. He reaches through the gore and heat, his hand closing around the pulsating red mana stone that serves as the monster's heart. There is no mercy in survival. Eugene shatters the core, letting the explosion of blood and energy wash over his new form. A massive explosion happens under the night sky, signaling the violent end of the forest's former king. The monster's carcass is shredded to pieces, and Eugene's old mask and rags are finally cast aside in the wake of the blast. Out of the bloody mist steps a man who looks nothing like the weakling from before, standing tall and liberated under the full moon. With glowing runes carved into his powerful new physique, Eugene is done with running. From now on, he fights for blood and victory. Under the watchful gaze of a full moon, Eugene stands in the middle of the desolate swamp, taking a moment to breathe after the brutal confrontation. It turns out that his victory was more rewarding than he thought, as the magic stone he absorbed from the Lomer was far larger and more potent than any he'd seen before. As a result, he can now manifest black scales across his skin like a suit of armor, which he hopes will finally let him move around during the daylight hours. This newfound power brings back memories of when he was first captured by mercenaries and saw the sheer terror that was the forest's master. Back then, he only needed a single sip of its blood to gain the strength to escape, but he knows he'll need much more than that to face the looming threat of the Holy Knights. Specifically, the Knight Jungdurhit is a master tracker of the undead, and Eugene realizes he can't hide from someone like that forever. At that moment, he notices the tattoos on his body reacting to his power, glowing brightly against the night sky as dawn begins to approach. Suddenly, the water behind him begins to churn and rise, forming into a massive, swirling blue silhouette that catches him completely off guard. Out of the torrent steps Mirian, the self-proclaimed Lake Guardian, who looks absolutely furious as she prepares to unleash a deadly curse on the intruder. However, the tension breaks almost instantly when she realizes she can be seen, leading to a hilarious moment where she calls Eugene a bald vampire right to his face. Little did she know that Eugene could hear every single word, and the look of sheer horror on her face when he responds is absolutely priceless. Realizing she's outmatched, Mirian quickly changes her tune, introducing herself as the true master of the area who had been enslaved by that crocodile for 15 years. She tries to play it off as a strategic partnership, blushing and acting cute while thanking him for finally getting rid of her scaly oppressor. She's clearly taken by Eugene's looks, though he's more focused on the strange phenomenon of one of his mysterious tattoos starting to fade from his shoulder. He admits that even he doesn't know the origin of these 10 markings, as they have been carved into his body for as long as he can remember. Since becoming a vampire, Eugene has spent most of his long life just trying to keep a low profile, never really digging into the secrets of his own past. But there's no time for a history lesson now. Eugene dons his mask and prepares to leave, telling the clingy spirit to just stay behind and mind the forest. Mirian is clearly desperate for company after being alone for so long, and she starts begging him to stay, promising him the best water in the world. To prove it, she literally starts vomiting a geyser of purified water right in front of him, and the look of pure disgust on Eugene's face is legendary. Despite her insistence that the water tastes amazing and will improve his complexion, Eugene just tells her to get lost and walks away into the trees. The scene shifts a few days later to Broadwin Village, where the locals are currently in a state of absolute panic because a certain monster has arrived. It turns out the red-eyed monster didn't come to eat them, but rather to drop off a massive pile of hunted boars, deer, and ducks for the town. The village chief and the young men are confused because this usually only appears during a full moon and were a very little amount, yet here is the mysterious hunter showing up early. Even though he looks like a terrifying phantom in his hood and mask, Eugene has actually been providing for this village for over 10 years without ever hurting anyone. For the first time ever, the mysterious man speaks up and asks for permission to enter the village, catching everyone completely off guard. Since he's basically been paying their meat taxes for a decade, the villagers find it hard to say no, even if they are still a little rattled by his red eyes. Eugene explains that he's been living in the mountains because of a long-term illness, but now that he's cured, he wants to be more helpful to his neighbors. As he pulls back his hood and reveals his face, the gasps from the crowd are almost deafening. It turns out that under the mask, Eugene is an incredibly handsome man, and he flashes a sparkly smile that makes the entire atmosphere change. The reaction is instantaneous. The villagers are literally screaming and swooning over the fact that their resident monster is actually a total babe. Meanwhile, Eugene stands in a halo of light, looking like a noble as the locals start whispering that he must be a secret half-elf or highborn lord. Miriam is hovering nearby, totally unimpressed, and asks why he's working so hard to catch all this game for people he's planning to leave behind soon. Eugene explains that in human society, showing goodwill is a strategic move, even if Miriam thinks a vampire should be more focused on blood and death. He knows that something terrible is about to happen, and he can't just sit back and watch these people get slaughtered. He's foreseen a raid by mercenaries who plan to kidnap a local boy for Lord Tywin and kill every single witness in the village. Miriam still can't quite figure out what Eugene is thinking, but she decides to tag along to see if his grim prediction actually comes true. As they walk through the woods, Eugene notes that he needs the villagers' trust so he won't look suspicious when the real trouble starts. Suddenly he stops dead in his tracks, causing Miriam to fly right into his back with a comical ack, as she complains about his sudden halt. It turns out his instincts were dead on, as a group of heavily armed mercenaries is already marching through the forest toward the village. The mercenaries spot him and immediately start mocking him, thinking he's just a pretty-faced villager who won't be able to put up any kind of fight. One of them decides to shut him up permanently, charging forward with a massive axe raised high for a killing blow. Miriam screams out his name in fear, but Eugene remains completely calm as the blade swings down toward his head. In the blink of an eye, Eugene's red eye flares with power as he lunges forward, slashing his claws through the mercenary's neck in a spray of blood. As the other mercenaries watch in stunned silence, Miriam is left reeling from the sudden violence, falling back as blood spatters everywhere. Eugene doesn't miss a beat, revealing his lethal black claws and a cold smile as he prepares to wipe out every single mercenary in the forest. As the fight begins, the forest echoes with the panicked screams of mercenaries as they realize they've stumbled upon a vampire. But their terror quickly turns into greedy ambition when they think about the reward the church would pay for such a prize. One soldier swings a heavy blade with all his strength, but Eugene effortlessly catches the cold steel with his bare hand, his glowing red eyes pinning the man in place. Before they can even react to his inhuman strength, Eugene tears through their ranks in a bloody blur, leaving the survivors realizing too late that they are completely outmatched. Even as more swords swing his way, Eugene parries every strike with his sharp claws, moving with a lethal grace that makes the mercenaries' frantic movements look like they're in slow motion. Blood sprays across the trees as Eugene counters a desperate lunge, but a mace-wielding brute ignores the carnage and charges right into the fray with a roar. The man brings down his heavy spiked mace, expecting a crushing blow, but Eugene blocks the massive impact with just his forearm without budging a single inch. The mercenary struggles with all his might to push back, but it's no use against Eugene's raw power, especially now that the setting sun has given the vampire the ultimate home field advantage. With the darkness fully settling in, Eugene declares it's officially his time to shine, moving so fast that the remaining men can barely see the strikes that finish them off. Standing amidst a pile of defeated mercenaries, Eugene notes that the night is perfect for hiding blood as he prepares his cover story. A short while later, the village chief and his men arrive with torches, only to stop dead in their tracks at the gruesome sight of the massacre. The villagers are absolutely horrified by the carnage, and the chief can't help but wonder if the legendary red-eyed monster is responsible for this nightmare. Just as the panic begins to peak, Eugene calmly steps out of the shadows, claiming he just stumbled upon the scene while checking his hunting traps on the way back. To make his story stick, he points out a pile of dead black wolves nearby, making it look like the beasts were the ones who tore the mercenaries apart. He explains that he waited for the pack to get distracted by the bodies before taking them out, leaving the chief in awe of Eugene's supposed bravery and skill. The villagers inspect the wounds and find exactly what Eugene wanted them to see: deep claw marks and bite wounds that perfectly frame the wolves for the crime. Feeling guilty for his initial suspicions, the chief offers a sincere apology for doubting him, while Eugene plays it cool and acts like he understands their caution. They decide to bring the bodies back to the village for a proper burial, while Miriam hovers nearby, watching Eugene's masterful performance with a very skeptical look. It turns out the whole thing was a calculated setup. Eugene had not only killed the mercenaries but specifically lured the wolves and even bit the corpses himself to fake the animal attack. Miriam is baffled by why he's going to such lengths to maintain a good reputation, but she can tell Eugene is playing a much deeper game than just staying hidden. Eugene then hands over a blood-stained letter he found on one of the bodies, which happens to bear the official seal of the local ruler, Lord Tywin. The chief's face pales as he reads the contents, and he immediately starts panicking, asking if the young boy Felid is still safe within the village. The letter reveals a shocking truth. Felid isn't just a common orphan, he's actually the illegitimate son of the Lord, and these men were sent to seize him. At that moment, the events shift back to the fight, where Eugene was systematically dismantling the threat with terrifying efficiency. The mercenaries had tried to rally, realizing that if they retreated empty-handed, they were as good as dead anyway, but their courage was nothing more than desperation. No matter how many men they threw at him, they couldn't land a single hit on the monster standing before them, who moved between them like a ghost. A final desperate strike is stopped cold as Eugene's red eye gleams with malice, and he delivers a crushing punch that sends the captain reeling. Eugene finishes the initial assault by sending the leader flying through the air and crashing into a massive tree, the impact loud enough to echo through the dark forest. Broken and defeated, the man begs for his life, finally realizing that Eugene had been waiting for them to arrive since the very beginning. He tries to claim they were just traveling on simple business, but Eugene isn't buying a single word as he pins the man down with a cold stare. Eugene makes it very clear that the village they were targeting belongs to him, and he's very curious about why a small child would attract this much trouble. Cornered, the mercenary spills everything, confessing they were hired not to hunt vampires, but to kidnap the secret child of the Tywin family hiding in the village. Eugene scoffs at the lie, knowing that a group this large wasn't just there for a kidnapping. They were likely planning to wipe out the entire village to leave no witnesses. The truth is even darker. The legitimate heirs of House Tywin hired these thugs to eliminate Felid so he couldn't interfere with their inheritance. As the mercenary whimpers for mercy, Eugene realizes that an old enemy named Vertil Tywin is likely the one who orchestrated this whole mess. Eugene remembers Vertil all too well as the commander of the vampire hunting squad who tormented him in his past life. He knows that if these mercenaries had succeeded in their greedy plan, it would have brought the holy knights straight to his doorstep once the village vanished. Feigning a moment of mercy, Eugene tells the mercenary to head back home, but warns him to be careful of the wolves on his way back. As the man starts to thank him for the chance to live, Eugene ends his life in an instant. He has no intention of letting anyone walk away who knows his true identity. He leaves the rest to the real wolves that have been drawn in by the scent of the struggle, ensuring that every trace of the mercenaries' presence is wiped out. Returning to the present, the chief explains to the other villagers that the dead mercenaries were actually the escorts sent to bring Felid to the Lord's castle. The news sends the villagers into a tailspin as they realize the quiet boy they've known for years is actually a noble, and his protectors were slaughtered by beasts. Seizing the perfect opportunity, Eugene steps up and offers to take the boy to the city himself, claiming he can navigate the forest while avoiding the predators. Miriam can't help but think about how incredibly shameless Eugene is being, as he effortlessly manipulates the grateful villagers into doing exactly what he wants. The chief is absolutely stunned that Eugene is claiming to be a knight, staring at him in disbelief as the village gathers around. Miriam reacts with pure shock as Eugene prepares to drop his biggest lie yet to secure his new identity. Of course, bro's about to lie like my ex. With a smooth smile and a hand over his heart, he introduces himself as Jan Eugene of House Eugene, leaving Miriam wondering how anyone could possibly believe such a bold-faced lie. The whole village is in an uproar as they realize the monster they feared is actually a high-ranking noble. While Pelid stays busy filling his stomach with soup, Eugene realizes just how easy it is to manipulate people who have never seen a real noble. The questions start flying as the villagers swarm him, desperate to know why a knight would choose to hide in the woods for a decade. Eugene plays it cool, giving them just enough mystery to keep the legend growing while the village elder offers up a warm place to sleep. As the night takes over, Eugene stares out into the darkness from his window, finally finding a moment of silence in his new room. It turns out his survival isn't just about swordsmanship, as he activates a terrifying skin-enhancing ability that turns his hand into black armor. He coats his arm in jagged black scales to block out the sunlight, but Miriam is more interested in roasting him for being a knight who can't read. He settles into a chair to plan his next move while the little Miriam pokes and prods, trying to figure out what his true goal really is. Eugene explains that a fancy title is like a shield. It makes even the biggest lies impossible for normal people to question. He straps on his mask and hood to fully commit to the bit, deciding that from now on, he's going to turn this lie into the absolute truth. The elder hands over a formal document of explanation, begging Sir Eugene to look after young Master Pellet on the road. The odd pair officially teams up, with the masked warrior introducing himself as Yan Eugene to the eager Pellet. At that moment, they set off from the village, leaving the small town behind as they head toward the distant mountains. The journey leads them deep into the wilderness until Pellet spots a sign pointing toward their next stop, the village of Brams. Surprisingly, Pellet mentions he can read the wooden sign thanks to his late mother, which is a total flex on the illiterate vampire. Miriam practically dies laughing and tells Eugene to ask the kid for help, leading to a very awkward request for some reading lessons. To explain his lack of education, Eugene spins a sob story about his family's ruin, making it sound like he never had time for books. Pellet's heart goes out to the struggling knight as they walk, completely buying into the tragic backstory while Eugene keeps moving. Little does he know, Eugene is a master of manipulation, and Miriam can't stop giggling at how thick the acting is getting. And by the way, no one can see Miriam except Eugene. The little fairy warns him not to overdo the lies, but looking at Pellet's sparkly, trusting eyes, it's clear the kid is already a total fan. Pellet even apologizes for his previous prejudice, admitting he only saw a monster until Eugene showed his noble side. He promises to teach Eugene everything he knows bit by bit so the knight won't be embarrassed when they meet other people. Suddenly, Eugene's red eyes flare as he senses an arrow whistling through the air at high speed toward the Pellet's head. He reaches out and snatches a heavy metal arrowhead right out of midair, stopping it inches away from Pellet's face. It turns out they've walked right into a bandit ambush on the steep mountain slope. The low-life criminals are already laughing, thinking they've got a pair of easy targets cornered with their heavy crossbows. They demand all their luggage and gold, but Eugene is already drawing his blade with a look that says this will be very quick. In a flash of red, Eugene tears through the first bandit, leaving nothing but a massive spray of blood in his wake. Pellet watches in horror as the knight turns into a whirlwind of absolute destruction, cleaving through the thieves. One bandit tries to charge with a pickaxe from behind, but Eugene is already waiting for him with a cold stare. He cleaves right through the charging man, the sound of tearing flesh echoing off the rocks as blood spatters everywhere. The sword moves with terrifying precision, ending lives before the bandits can even process how outmatched they are. One terrified survivor tries to back away as Eugene looms over him, his red eyes glowing through the dark mask. There is no mercy to be found as Eugene finishes the slaughter, leaving the entire hillside littered with the corpses of the fallen. He looks down at the carnage, wondering why humans feel the need to prey on those they think are weaker than themselves. He turns back to Pellet, asking if the boy's books will ever be able to explain the logic behind such a pointless, violent world. Pellet can only stare in shell-shocked silence, but Eugene makes a silent vow to keep the blood off the boy as they continue their trek. The journey leads the group into a massive, lively city tucked away between the steep mountains. It's a bustling place where the air is filled with the shouts of merchants trying to sell everything from dungeon herbs to high-grade weapons. Miriam is clearly having the time of her life, fluttering around with hearts in her eyes while Eugene and Pellet navigate the packed streets. Pellet is a bit on edge though, warning Eugene to be careful because the local merchants are famous for being greedy enough to rip off anyone they see. Eugene doesn't seem too bothered by the warning, figuring you can only really be careful if you actually have money to lose as they head toward a shop. He walks right up to a counter and slams down a heavy black wolf hide, catching the shopkeeper's attention immediately. The merchant recognizes the rarity of the hide, but after taking one look at Eugene's shabby, travel-worn clothes, he decides this is the perfect guy to fleece. He puts on a fake sigh and claims the hide is too damaged to be worth much, trying to lowball Eugene with a measly offer of 18 silver coins. Little did he know, a single silent stare from Eugene's glowing red eyes is enough to make any greedy plan crumble into pure terror. The merchant starts breaking into a cold sweat, his voice trembling as he immediately backtracks and says he might be able to offer a little more. Eugene doesn't say a word, letting out a simple that sends the merchant into a total panic, causing him to hike the price up to 25, then 27 silver. One more intense glare from that red eye is all it takes to break the merchant completely, forcing him to cough up 30 silver coins. The merchant is left feeling like a defeated worm, while Eugene and Peled head back out to find a spot for the night. As the sun goes down, the group settles by a campfire where Eugene takes a moment to study some ancient script by the light of the flames. He admits that while he's learned the basics, he's still got a long way to go before he can truly read fluently. Miriam is hovering nearby, teasing him about how that pushover merchant basically handed over extra money just because Eugene stood there and stared. She starts going on a rant about how a noble vampire should be living in luxury, drinking blood like wine in a moonlit castle rather than roughing it in the dirt. It turns out she knows all this because seniors from the spirit realm used to visit her, giving her tons of advice about making it in the human world. But when Eugene asks if she can actually read the language herself, she just gives a cheerful nope and admits she's only good for making drinking water. Peled eventually returns to the fire, looking completely drained and apologizing for how sick he got earlier that morning. He's determined to be useful though, promising that since they still have plenty of paper, he'll stay up as long as it takes to keep teaching Eugene. The night grows quiet as the two of them focus on their studies in the middle of the dark forest. Eugene turns out to be an incredible student, picking up in one night what takes most people an entire year to learn. The conversation turns serious when Eugene asks Peled if he's truly ready for the life waiting for him, knowing he'll become a noble's child overnight. Peled admits it doesn't feel real yet. But his pensive moment is cut short when the sound of horses and clanking armor echoes through the tree. A man with a wide, friendly grin steps into the light of the fire, greeting them and asking if they'd mind sharing the campsite. Eugene immediately sizes them up, noting that these aren't just drifters, they're professional mercenaries with top-tier gear and solid discipline. The captain Pardek offers to share their supplies, even as his younger, blonde companion looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Pardek has to apologize for the kid, Rabin, explaining that he hasn't been with the mercenary band for very long and doesn't know his place yet. Things get tense the moment Eugene introduces himself as a knight, prompting Rabin to burst into mocking laughter. Rabin doesn't believe a word of it, sneering at Eugene's lack of armor and claiming he's never heard of House Eugene in his life. The young mercenary gets aggressive, reaching out to poke Eugene in the chest while accusing him of being a complete fake. Eugene stays calm, but he can tell these mercenaries didn't just stumble upon them by accident, they clearly want something else. As Rabin continues to push, Eugene's eyes turn a lethal shade of red while his hand moves toward his weapon, knowing he could end this entire group in an instant. Captain Pardek isn't about to let Rabin's big mouth ruin everything, so he immediately slams a hand onto the rookie's shoulder to shut him up. Before Rabin can even process the why, he gets sent flying into a tree while Pardek bows as low as he can, practically begging Eugene for mercy. Eugene maintains his mysterious aura and accepts the apology before casually ordering the group to start setting up their camp. While the fire burns, Rabin remains down against a tree, with his soul literally leaving his body from the captain's disciplinary strike. It takes a while, but the rookie eventually stammers back into consciousness, looking completely dazed and confused about what just happened. Pardek doesn't waste a second before laying into him again, calling him a fool for recklessly picking a fight with someone as dangerous as a knight. As Rabin nurses the massive bump on his head, Pardek points out that the boy is blind to the obvious wealth and status Eugene is carrying. He notes that the robe Eugene is wearing is crafted from high-grade lycanthrope leather, worth more silver than Rabin would see in several months. Beyond the expensive gear, Pardek is even more concerned by the fact that the stranger can read and was ready to kill in an instant. The captain recalls how Eugene subtly slipped his hand under his robe and shifted his foot back, preparing for a lethal draw. That specific stance was a clear sign of a master swordsman who had already calculated the perfect path to take Rabin's life. Pardek shakes his head, telling the kid that if he hadn't stepped in when he did, Rabin's head would have been rolling on the forest floor. He goes on to explain that real knights are raised with swords in their hands from the moment they can walk, training purely to kill. They are warriors who march into lethal dungeons and build their reputations on the blood of their enemies, just to get noticed by nobility. Pardek warns that pretending to be a knight is a serious crime, meaning anyone bold enough to fake it must be incredibly confident in their skills. Out of all the men who swing swords, only a tiny fraction ever earn that title, especially someone who looks so young yet acts so composed. When Rabin asks if Eugene is actually stronger than the captain, Pardek admits it's likely, noting they're both heading toward the same castle anyway. Little do they know, Eugene is leaning against a tree nearby, eavesdropping on every word and questioning why House Tywin hired these mercenaries. Deciding he's heard enough, Eugene steps out from the darkness, making the mercenaries jump as he approaches their little gathering. He flashes a charming smile and suggests they travel together since they share a destination, leaving the mercenaries and a blushing Rabin completely starstruck. Bros folding guys I see. The journey continues until they reach Martella, a village in Tywin territory, where Eugene is relieved to see his knightly act is working perfectly. Meanwhile, Mirian flutters over to his shoulder to report on the gossip she picked up while eavesdropping on the mercenary crew. She reveals that Lord Tywin's health is failing fast, and the family is too broke to handle the newly discovered dungeon on their land. Mirian then points out a sad reality. If the Lord dies, Pelid will effectively become an orphan for the second time in his life. Eugene tries to act like he doesn't care, but Mirian keeps pestering him about the danger Pelid faces from his own siblings. He looks over at the somber boy, realizing the Lord likely just wants to see his son one last time, even as their fates begin to intertwine. Suddenly, a horse's hoof stamps down on the cobblestones as someone shouts that they've finally arrived at their destination. Rose Castle looms over them in all its glory, a massive fortress that serves as the seat of power for the dying Lord Tywin. Mirian is blown away by the size of the place and starts rambling about Eugene living in a castle, forcing Eugene to quickly shush her. At the gate, the guards demand they state their business, but Pardek smoothly identifies them as the escort for the merchant guild. That's when Kamara Tywin, the arrogant eldest son of the house, makes his appearance to inspect the incoming goods. Kamara's eyes immediately land on the hooded stranger, and he's visibly annoyed when Eugene introduces himself as a knight. The tension is broken by a very familiar voice calling out to Kamara, and Eugene's entire demeanor shifts as he recognizes the sound. A knight in polished armor and a red cape steps forward, his heavy boots clicking rhythmically against the stone ground. Eugene's blood runs cold as he looks at the man, remembering the person who first discovered his hiding spot and led the hunt against him. It turns out this knight was one of them who tormented him endlessly in his past life, chasing him through the dark of the night. This powerful warrior is none other than Sir Bertil Tywin, a face from a past Eugene know very well. The Tywin brothers are back at it again, yapping in the courtyard like their sibling rivalry is the main plot while Bertil looks annoyed that Kamara is breathing his air. Bertil tries to act like the main character with a heavy scowl, but Eugene interrupts the mid-off with a casual "excuse me" that instantly kills the vibe. Eugene hands over a letter from a village chief, and Bertil looks like he's seen a ghost, while Eugene's red eye glows through his mask for maximum edge. Bertil wanted the envelope, but Eugene snatched it and gave it to Kamara. His face turns into a dot-eyed NPC because Bro is genuinely confused about what's happening. They read the report and find out their hired mercenaries got absolutely folded by wolves, leaving the brothers standing there looking like total bums. Felid finally shows up with a backpack bigger than his entire future, and Kamara immediately starts glazing the kid to look like the nice, older brother. Bertil isn't buying the act and looks ready to crash out, ordering the boy to be taken away and washed because he can't handle the peasant energy. Just as Bertil tries to walk away like he's him, Eugene stands on business and stops him right in his tracks. Eugene demands a meeting with the big boss, making Bertle grit his teeth so hard he's probably going to need a dentist after this confrontation. The tension in the courtyard is disgusting as Bertle gatekeeps his sick father, while Kamara just crosses his arms and watches the drama unfold. Eugene's glowing eye is locked onto Bertle's rage-filled face as the blonde brother warns him not to make him repeat himself like a broken record. Bertle starts screaming at the top of his lungs, but Kamara finally decides to stop being a background character and calls his brother out for tripping. Kamara starts yapping about how their dad can't stay awake for more than an hour, basically telling Eugene that he's too low tier for a meeting. The brothers get face to face and start arguing over their father's schedule, while Kamara whistles like a troll just to make Bertle lose his mind. Kamara puts a hand on Eugene's chest to politely dismiss him, and you can tell Eugene is 1 second away from choosing violence over that touch. Kamara leads Feel It away, while Eugene realizes he's been played by these blonde snakes who never intended to let him see the Lord. The exit is cut short by a massive thud as someone hits the cobblestones face first, catching everyone off guard mid-conversation. Galfredic pulls up carrying unconscious bums like they're trash bags, laughing about how he caught these mercenaries slacking instead of training. Galfredic looks like a total menace with that wild red hair, suggesting they execute one just for the vibes while Bertle sweats buckets next to him. Partek is shook and recognizes the red-haired monster as Sir Galfredic, wondering why a top-tier knight is hanging out in this backwater territory. A flashback shows Galfredic standing on a literal mountain of bodies with a terrifying red aura. Bro really wiped out 1,000 ops just for a tournament. Eugene and Partek discuss the upcoming dungeon opening, realizing that a knight who clears it first gets enough clout to reach a greater house. Eugene looks at Partek and asks if his previous job is finished, probably plotting to recruit the only person here who isn't a total fraud. Eugene drops a devious smirk under his mask and offers Partek a new job, while the scene shifts to the castle looming under a full moon. Late at night, the mercenaries are doing push-ups in the dirt, while Eugene realizes Kamara is desperately aiming for the heir's seat by any means. Kamara is sitting in his office looking absolutely cooked, stressing over maps and globes because he knows he can't hire random riffraff for the raid. A guard knocks and tells Kamara that Eugene is asking for a meeting, and Kamara decides to let the masked wanderer back in for round 2. Eugene walks into the office with Max aura while Kamara starts glazing him, pretending to care about Felid's safety to set a friendly tone. They sit down across from each other, and Kamara gives a fake grateful smile for the letter earlier, trying to keep his head up in front of the help. Eugene shuts down the small talk immediately, telling Kamara that his business is only with the Lord and calling the son a third party to his face. Eugene drops the bombshell demand. He wants a spot in the dungeon raid party, and Kamara's brain looks like it's lagging in real time. Kamara starts laughing like a maniac at the suggestion, finding it hilarious that a guy who looks like a bandit wants to join the big leagues. The blonde heir points a finger at his own head, mocking Eugene and calling him entertaining for having such a high opinion of himself. He tries to lowball Eugene's achievements, saying he only killed 5 bandits and wondering why he should even bother with a wanderer. Eugene leans forward and offers a deal so cheap it's basically a clearance sale, asking for a reward that's way below the usual market rate. Kamara looks suspicious because the price is too good to be true, but Eugene just smirks because he knows Kamara is the one who's actually in a hurry. Eugene is sitting across from Kamara Tywin, acting like he's the CEO of the raid party while dropping a suspicious proposal on the table. Kamara looks at him with that "I know you're broke" energy, questioning why Eugene's rates are way below market price for a wandering knight with zero backup. A giant glowing knight pops up in the background as Kamara starts yapping about honor, though he's clearly just trying to figure out why Eugene isn't greedy for the gold. Eugene hits him with a smug gesture, reminding this blonde noble that he isn't the one pressed for time, which sends Kamara's blood pressure through the roof. Kamara gets a jagged-toothed smirk going, thinking Eugene is a genius for figuring out the fight between him and his lil bro. The deal is locked in as Kamara stands up to shake on it, officially counting on Eugene to carry the weight of the upcoming dungeon raid. Captain Partek was the one who told this to Eugene from the trade secrets, telling Eugene to ignore the magic stones and focus on the monster byproducts if he actually wants to see some profit. As they reach for the handshake, Kamara is all smiles. On the other side, Galfredic starts acting out immediately, tossing daggers around the room like a playground, while Bertel tries to act like his team isn't full of crashouts. This absolute unit catches his blade with a smirk, calling out any half-baked weaklings who might get in the way of his glorious advance. These two start bickering because Bertel's social network is mid, and he's dumping all the introductory work on the musclehead. Later, Kamara puts on his best fake face and introduces his new knight to the group with a dramatic thumbpoint over his shoulder. Eugene stands tall at the top of the lineup, leading a band of mercenaries that look like they're ready to ruin everyone's day. Bertel shows off his predatory grin, basically telling everyone that if Eugene doesn't have the skills to pay the bills, he's getting left for dead. Even though Eugene's origins are a total mystery, Kamara vouches for his skill while everyone else in the room stares him down. To prove Eugene is HIM, Kamara shares a story about how this bro cleared an entire thief band with a single short sword like it was nothing. Galfredic decides to verify the hype by launching a dagger straight at Eugene's head while the man is just standing there. Eugene's red eye tracks the blade perfectly, and he parries it with a metallic clash that sends sparks flying everywhere. The dagger gets absolutely cooked, ending up buried in the wall with smoke coming off it as Galfredic lets out a twisted, jagged-toothed laugh. Galfredic slams his hand on the table and starts glazing Eugene's clean skin, wondering how a guy with 0 battle scars or even a sunburn is supposed to be a monster. He demands a skill check right then and there, as the scene shifts to the massive courtyard lit by torches. The random NPCs start freaking out because they know Galfredic is a literal beast who tears monsters apart with his bare hands. Eugene doesn't even look stressed as he tightens his gloves, while the spectators start feeling sorry for whoever is about to get folded. Galfredic draws his massive sword with a maniacal grin, looking like he's about to have the time of his life. The tension is insane as they stare each other down, red eyes meeting blue eyes across the dark courtyard. The man in the cap signals for the start, and the atmosphere gets heavy as both fighters lock into their combat stances. A giant bell rings to start the round, and Eugene's boot cracks the stone as he explodes forward like he's got a point to prove. Their blades collide in a massive explosion of light and sparks that illuminates the entire arena. It's a total metal-on-metal grind as they trade blows faster than the crowd can even blink. Galfredic is actually laughing mid-fight, fully enjoying the fact that someone can actually keep up with his wild energy. The fight turns into a blur of white light and speed lines, with both of them moving like they've got infinite aura. Rabin is in the back glazing Eugene's performance, while Partek is the only one smart enough to see that Galfredic is just testing the water. Every impact is like a bomb going off, as they trade dozens of strikes in a chaotic flurry of steel. Galfredic lets himself be pushed back with a smirk. Realizing that Eugene's swordplay is way rougher and more unrefined than any proper knight's. As Eugene comes in with a wild, beast-like strike, Galfredic calls him out for being a total fraud. This bro was never a knight to begin with. Is bro actually gonna get caught? Galfredic starts yapping immediately, trashing Eugene's sloppy stance and calling his style rootless, basically telling the man he has 0 fundamentals and is just carried by his raw stats. Eugene isn't about to sit there and listen to a lecture, so he crashes out and swings his blade so fast it leaves orange tracers in the air. The blades collide with enough friction to light up the night, sending a shower of white sparks everywhere as Eugene stares through his mask with pure HIM energy. Standing on business, Eugene plants his foot so hard the floorboards start screaming, kicking up a cloud of dust as he holds his ground against the giant. Galfredic tries to catch him with a massive spinning backswing. Eugene gets hit on the face. The pressure from their clash finally hits a breaking point, creating a massive shockwave that sends a ring of dust exploding across the entire arena floor. Up in the stands, Bertel Tywin is absolutely glazing the fight, fist pumping like a maniac because he thinks he's about to see Eugene get folded. Suddenly, Eugene's left eye starts glowing with a sinister red aura, proving that bro is officially locked in and ready to end this man's whole career. Galfredic realized he's cooked when Eugene starts dodging his fastest strikes by inches, proving that he's a fast learner who's already downloading the ops moveset. Moving like a shadow, Eugene drops low to the ground and closes the distance with a burst of speed that leaves Galfredic wondering where the aura went. They go back to trading heavy blows, metal screaming against metal as the sparks create a strobe light effect around their faces. From above, it looks like a dance of death as they circle each other with blurred blades, before finally ending up in a deadlocked clinch, face to face. Galfredic is actually starting to sweat now, wondering how this smaller guy has the strength of a freight train while their arms are locked in a desperate power struggle. Eugene admits that Galfredic has more raw power, but in terms of experience, it's a total skill issue for the big man. In a move that looks like a glitch in the Matrix, Galfredic pulls him toward himself instead of pushing. Galfredic now in a stance of punching, which is about to ruin our guy's whole career. But our guy hits his hand on the ground and rolls on the side of Galfredic. Galfredic is tumbling through the air like a ragdoll, while Eugene is already repositioning, showing absolutely zero respect for the laws of physics. As he's falling, Galfredic realizes that while Eugene's form is garbage, his survival instincts are top tier, making him the most dangerous man in the room. Eugene wins up for the final blow and Galfredic just accepts his fate with a grin, literally admitting defeat before he even hits the ground. The impact is insane, as Galfredic hits the castle wall like a wrecking ball, shattering the stone. Bro's out cold now, eyes rolled back and totally unconscious after getting caught in 4K losing to the rootless swordsman. The announcer screams that the winner is Sir Yan Eugene, and in the back, NPCs looks like they are about to faint from the sheer shock of it all. Rabin starts acting like the ultimate bandwagon fan, flexing and claiming Eugene as our knight while Captain Pardek just stands there looking stoic and unimpressed. Galfredic's eye snaps open suddenly, showing he's still got some life in him even after getting his world rocked by the new guy. He drags himself out of the rocks and starts walking toward Eugene, making the crowd part in fear because they think he's about to crash out again. Instead of swinging, he reaches out and grabs Eugene's arm, making the masked man twitch toward his sword just in case things get spicy. Galfredic, however, hoists Eugene's arm into the air like a trophy, shouting for everyone to give it up for the victor while Eugene looks incredibly awkward. The whole crowd starts chanting Eugene's name, and Bertel Tywin looks like he's about to have a salt-induced heart attack from the sidelines. Later that night, the lords set up a massive feast with roasted turkey and strawberry cake, a spread fit for a king or a very grumpy vampire. Eugene sits at the head of the table looking like he's being interrogated, still wearing that mask while the butler explains that these are the Lord's orders. Mirian the fairy starts teasing him about getting a stomachache, while the maids in the corner are clearly distracted by Eugene's mysterious aura. Finally having enough of the yapping, Eugene drops a menacing glare and tells everyone to get out because he prefers his hermit lifestyle. The next day, Kamara Tywin tries to be the ultimate politician, putting his arm around Eugene and acting like they're besties now that he knows Eugene is HIM. Rabin comes running and screaming at the top of his lungs, acting like Eugene's personal hype man, which the masked knight actually finds kind of endearing. Galfredic shows up and shoves Kamara out of the way to hug Eugene, who immediately tells the big red-haired giant to stop clinging to him. Galfredic just laughs and points at his massive purple bruise like it's a medal of honor, asking Eugene for a rematch because he's a glutton for punishment. Eugene looks away, realizing his days of being a mountain hermit are over because now he's got a whole squad of glazers following him around. The crew starts walking together, arguing about who wants to catch hands next, while the aura in the hallway shifts as someone approaches. It turns out to be Pelid, who shows up with a warm smile and asks Eugene if he's been well, finally bringing some wholesome energy to this chaotic group. Flashback time, night falls over the castle while some nameless bot screams for his life like a total loser. Bertel is standing over a puddle of blood because some minion didn't do his job, and now he's paying the ultimate life tax. Bro is absolutely crashing out with those glowing blue eyes because his master plan is falling apart. He delivers a massive L to this guy's face, sending teeth flying everywhere because the minion's aura is basically zero. Bertel pulls out a knife and puts it right on the guy's eye, threatening to uninstall his vision for being useless. And this was our Pelid. After scaring the life out of his Pelid, he gets a good idea to handle the situation, which usually means someone else is getting cooked. Meanwhile, Pelid is just rotting on the floor like a complete NPC, while the moonlight hits his sad face. Coming back to present, Pelid was explaining all of this to Eugene. Peled just found out the mercenaries meant to kill. Peled ended up as wolf food because they were mid. Eugene looks him in the eye and tells him there's a way to actually survive this circus. Bro tells Peled he has to become his thrall, which is honestly a massive upgrade for someone this washed. He tells the kid to stop and come with him, struggle until the end because just laying down and dying is a major skill issue. The scene shifts to the massive dungeon gate, which looks expensive, but probably holds a bunch of high-tier ops. Galfredic is standing there with his massive red hair looking like HIM while they prep for the raid. The random porter soldiers are already planning to fake an injury because they're terrified of getting folded by a goblin. Bertle shows up and grabs a soldier by the neck, demanding to know where Peled is hiding. He starts hating on the illegitimate son because he's salty that the kid didn't die in the village yet. Peled is busy glazing Eugene with a bag of snacks while Bertle punches a random soldier in the background out of pure spite. Bertle marches up and tries to bully Peled again, telling him to get back to his assigned spot like a dog. Peled is sweating bullets because Bertle is screaming in his face like he's trying to win a Hater of the Year award. Out of nowhere, Eugene stands on business and grabs Bertle's wrist, stopping him in 4K. Yeah, he ain't letting him touch him. Touching is bad. Don't do it, boys. The stare-down is insane, and Eugene tells Bertle he's basically out of his mind if he thinks he can touch the kid. Bertle tries to slap the hand away, shouting about how rude it is to interfere with his family drama. Eugene doesn't care and reveals that Peled became his thrall yesterday, making him off-limits to the ops. Galfredic is just in the back enjoying the show, watching Bertle get his pride folded in front of the whole squad. Eugene leans in and tells him that laying a single finger on the boy is a direct challenge to his smoke. Bertle is absolutely trembling with rage, but he knows he's cooked if he tries to fight Eugene right now. The soldiers in the back are openly glazing Eugene's talent, while Bertle makes a gremlin face in the foreground. Kamara Tywin shows up laughing and puts a hand on Bertle's shoulder, making the situation even more embarrassing for him. The eldest brother actually sides with Eugene, telling Bertle that the kid is 16 and should choose his own path. Eugene's red eye is glowing with peak aura while Bertle bites his lip because he just took a massive L. A soldier reports that no monsters have escaped, so it's finally time to enter the dungeon and stop talking. Galfredic starts laughing and screams for the gate to open because he's ready to crash out on some monsters. He tells everyone to survive on their own because he's not here to carry any bots through the raid. The whole army charges into the dark abyss with Galfredic and Eugene leading the way like absolute legends. Kamara and Peled wave goodbye from the entrance as the massive stone door closes them in for the next 4 days. The squad enters a dark cave and immediately started cooking. It's absolute chaos as the green ops swarm the formation while some random fodder cries for his mommy. Galfredic has seen enough and lets out a blue light slash that deletes everything in its path. A survivor is gasping for air while Galfredic starts crashing out on the troops for being mid. Galfredic is standing on business, ordering the archers to cover the ceiling because these goblins are everywhere. Arrows start raining down to pin the pests while the shield wall tries its best to not fold. This one young mercenary is a certified fraud, hiding in a corner wishing he never signed up for this raid. Goblins creep out of the shadows with glowing eyes, but a blade sends a head flying before they can move. Galfredic looms over the coward like a final boss, grabbing him by the neck for being a total liability. He kicks the guy back into the fight while the whole cave erupts into a massive clanging mess. Galfredic is sweating because these mercenaries are garbage, and he knows they're about to be wiped. The rear gets swarmed, and Galfredic is losing his mind trying to switch the formation to survive. Eugene decides to carry the team and casually walks into the pitch-black tunnel alone like a legend. Galfredic just stands there confused as the sounds of Eugene absolutely cooking monsters echo in the dark. The team catches up only to find the ground covered in charcoal circles where enemies used to be. There's nothing left but shattered skulls as the squad runs through the cave trying to find the carry. Galfredic finds a literal mountain of corpses, and his eye zooms in because the skill gap is just too large. Our boy Eugene is just standing there looking majestic, holding a glowing flower and wondering if it's worth any gold. He walks through a sea of blood like it's a Tuesday, while Galfredic's squad stares in total disbelief. The wounded are struggling in the camp, while someone brings a pouch of magic stones to the goat. Eugene inspects the blue crystals with that "I'm HIM" stare, not even impressed by the loot. Miriam pops up looking like a total baddie, explaining that these small stones are basically trash tier. She reminds him of the Lomer monster from the swamp, proving Eugene is just built different. Suddenly the vibes change as Miriam senses a real threat, and Eugene locks in instantly. Galfredic goes back to hating on the weaklings, telling them Eugene is taking the lead from now on. A dark pit awaits them, and everyone knows the next enemy is going to be on a whole different level. Galfredic points out the orc boss and its goons, grinning because he knows some real action is coming. The fodder soldiers are shaking, but Eugene's red-eye glow proves he's ready to stand on business. A flashback shows Eugene's insane physique, and those glowing back runes talk about peak aura. He's listening to the footsteps, calculating the distance like a predator hunting his dinner. Galfredic offers him a spear with a smirk, knowing Eugene is about to do something legendary. Eugene grabs the spear and goes into a whirlwind spin that would make anyone else dizzy. He launches the spear and it deletes the orc boss's brain in one shot, absolute skill issue for the orc. Eugene charges in like a blur of lethal hair and steel, leaving everyone behind like toddlers. He's diving into the horde and swinging like a madman, while Galfredic tells the others to actually do something. Orcs are getting sliced open, and blood is spraying everywhere because Eugene is just too fast for them. He leaps into the air and delivers a brutal ice stab that probably felt as bad as it looks. The orc is gurgling in its own blood, while Eugene lands perfectly like he's in a photo shoot. He lunges through another monster and rips his blade out, letting the blood fly in a massive arc. Eugene looks at the camera with a blood-soaked face and those red eyes. Honestly, he's never looked cooler. The mercenaries are officially traumatized, realizing the guy they admired is actually a total monster. He steps on a corpse and thinks about elegant swordplay, which is hilarious given the gore. A dark, smoky aura swirls around him as the team watches in pure horror from the sidelines. Galfredic finally sees the truth. Under that noble exterior, Eugene is just a blood-soaked beast. The crew is chilling in the cave after the fight, but Galfredic is just standing there watching the mid-tier soldiers struggle to breathe. Rabin is doing the most, playing medic for some random fodder who clearly didn't have the stats for this raid. There's a dead monster rotting on the floor, and honestly that's just a skill issue. Galfredic is standing there glazing the situation, worried that the squad has officially lost their juice and can't push any further. Suddenly he remembers Eugene with all that aura, and this makes him. Galfredic is starting to sweat as he looks at his exhausted squad. He's realizing they're cooked if they stay, so he tries to tell Eugene it's time to pack it up and go home. Eugene doesn't care about your feelings or your fatigue. He tells them his stamina is still at 100%, and turning back now is for losers. Galfredic is forced to crash out and tell the soldiers they're sticking with Eugene, even though the squad looks caught in 4K with pure terror on their faces. Eugene jumps down. He tells Galfredic to lead the NPC squad back to the entrance because he's moving solo from here on out. Partek and Rabin decide to chase after him because they have zero survival instincts. Meanwhile, the rest of the soldiers are relieved they don't have to die today. They're definitely not standing on business. Galfredic is over here literally writing fanfiction in his head about Eugene's warm heart. Bro is glazing him so hard he's rethinking the entire definition of being a knight. The trio moves deeper into the spider-infested webs, looking for trouble. Rabin is holding a torch like it's actually going to save him from his inevitable L. But we can see Rabin is having a total mental breakdown. He remembers Eugene covered in blood and just prays that the MC carries him through the rest of this dungeon. He hears a crunch and Bro is confused. He looks down at his feet, realizing he just stepped on something he definitely shouldn't have. It's just a lil spider. And surprise, the whole ceiling is full of great spiders and the ops have arrived in bulk. They're surrounded and it's looking like they're about to get folded. Rabin starts screaming like a total fraud the second things get real. Partek tells Eugene they need to dip, but Eugene just looks at him like he's stupid. Fall back, Bro doesn't even know what that means. Eugene starts swinging and he's cutting through these spiders like they're made of paper. Pure skill, no luck, just a man standing on business. Partek tries to keep his dignity by joining the fight, yelling at Rabin to back up Eugene before the whole squad gets wiped. It's an absolute bloodbath in the tunnels. Eugene is moving too fast for the frames, while Rabin is back there getting completely folded by the swarm. A giant spider is about to eat Rabin's face, massive L for the blonde kid. Luckily, Eugene jumps in and saves him because Rabin is too weak to handle his own business. Rabin is shaking like a leaf. He's realized Eugene is actually cracked and he's just a side character. Eugene splits another spider in half with a vertical strike. That's the cleanest cut of the year, no cap. Eugene is standing on a literal mountain of corpses like a boss after wiping the shit out of spiders. Pardek is just standing there in the background, officially or less. Rabin is back to his professional glazing duties, telling Eugene how amazing he is. He's already trying to convince the boss to head back now that they've won. But Pardek isn't celebrating. Bro is frozen solid. His legs are literally shaking because he feels something massive approaching from the shadows. It turns out there's a ranking system for these bugs, and they just hit the jackpot. It's a Lord-class monster. This thing is massive and has way too many eyes for comfort. Pardek looks like a literal ant compared to this absolute unit of a spider. Rabin is screaming for them to run and go find Galfredic. Bro is desperate for a carry because he knows he's about to be cooked. Eugene turns around and just look at that face. He's got that crash-out energy. He tells the NPCs to scram because this big bug is his prey. Pardek and Rabin decide to value their lives for once and run away. They can feel the massive gap in power and they know they're not built for this. Miriam pops out of nowhere, sitting on Eugene's shoulder. She's easily the baddest one in this cave, absolute 10-10, I'm simping, my bad. She casually explains that the soldier's instincts just surrendered to Eugene's level. Eugene asks if this thing is as strong as the Swamp Master. Miriam says it's actually stronger, but Eugene just sees a bigger magic stone and a fatter paycheck. Eugene stares down the boss with that I'm HIM energy. He basically tells the spider that the harder the treasure chest is to open, the more he's going to enjoy the loot inside.
And scene change, cause he already killed the spider. A random spider thinks is the main character and tries to drop into a cup, but it gets flicked into the shadow realm instantly. Eugene is just sitting there with Maxora, and we see his Lord Magic Stone tattoo fading into his skin like a boss. Bro just unlocked camouflage, turning his demon tier black skin back into human flesh because he's literally him. Now he can walk in the sun without turning into crispy bacon, and honestly, the mask coming off is just unfair to every other male in a 5-mile radius. Meanwhile, in the garden, Galfredic is being a total meathead and putting Rabin in a headlock while everyone else tries to enjoy their drinks. Eugene is currently being absolutely glazed by a table of noble girls who are clearly thirsty for more than just tea. They're obsessed with his giant spider kill, and Miriam is just floating there mocking him because she knows he's socially cooked. One of the girls who was a total baddie. Wait, I mean, she's just mid-asks if he has elf blood because he's too hot to be human. Galfredic starts connecting the dots, remembering how Eugene has the senses of a wild dog and doesn't even need a flashlight in dark dungeons. Between the inhuman strength and those red eyes, it's obvious this man is definitely not an ordinary human. He's just built different. Galfredic crashes out and shouts about the elf blood theory while Robin literally passes out from the sheer meathead energy. Eugene just smirks like he's in a perfume commercial, and honestly, his face card never declines. The entire table is folded, hearts are flying everywhere, and even Robin is caught in 4K looking like a total fanboy. Eugene decides to stand on business and use the I'm half-elf lie to keep the ops off his back while he checks his magic stone gains. Suddenly, a tattoo vanishes and Bro gets hit with a memory of himself lying in a bed like he's about to enter his tragic backstory arc. A mysterious woman is holding his hand in a room that looks like it cost more than the entire kingdom, and everyone is staring at him. The woman laughs, and Eugene starts wondering if these memories are even his, or if he's just glitching through someone else's past. He snaps back to reality just in time to hear Robin screaming for his life like a complete deadweight. Galfredic is busy bullying the kid, calling him out for being useless to Eugene during the Ray Bro is literally getting cooked. Raban tries to say Eugene is a monster, so Galfredic drags him off for some hell training because Bro is clearly lacking. Eugene closes his eyes, feeling a hunch that the truth is buried under those fading tattoos. While the garden party continues with Raban getting carried away like a sack of potatoes, Eugene is planning to find his real identity. The scene shifts to the dark bedroom of Lord Tywin, where the vibes are absolutely immaculate but also super depressing. Galfredic introduces himself with some respect for once, and Eugene performs a formal bow because he's a gentleman like that. They hand over a wooden box containing a scroll that's supposed to be the ultimate proof of Eugene's status. Eugene takes the document while Miriam keeps simping in the background, but then Lord Tywin starts coughing like he's out of time. The old man is worried about his younger son's ambition, probably because Bro is a snake in the grass. Chimera stands there promising to guide the land, while Peleb looks on with a total skill issue expression. Lord Tywin's hand finally drops, he's officially cooked, and the room fills up with people grieving their leader. While everyone is crying, Bertil is in the corner gritting his teeth, looking like he's about to crash out and start a villain arc. The funeral is finally wrapping up, and Galfredik is hitting the road because Bro has places to be and meet to head, leaving the rest of the squad behind. Galfredik asks if Eugene is really staying behind, and Eugene just stares at the dungeon like he's looking for a reason to run it back for that extra loot. Galfredik starts glazing the MC, saying the dead count would have loved him, then reaches out for a handshake like they're besties now. This meathead Galfredik is really doing too much with the honor to cross swords speech, while Eugene just looks at his hand like it's a confusing piece of furniture. They finally lock in for the handshake, but Eugene's face is still stuck on factory settings while the sound of a firm grip echoes in the air. Galfredik rides off into the mountains, and Eugene immediately switches back to business mode, telling Partek it's time to move. Pellet is confused about why they need a horse, so Partek has to explain that a knight without a horse has 0 aura, and they need to sell their monster byproducts. Pellet tries to stand on business and offer his assistance as a thrall, but Eugene tells him he won't be needing him for a while, absolutely folding his dreams. Look at Pellet's face. Bro is straight up cooked, looking like his entire soul just disconnected from the server after that rejection. Next thing you know, Pellet is at the docks carrying crates like a common NPC while the narration tells us we've reached the kingdom's biggest trade city. The port is buzzing with ships and seagulls, but honestly, unless there's a baddie nearby, I don't see why we're looking at the water. A massive crowd gathers around the dungeon loot, and everyone is losing their minds because Eugene basically brought back an entire warehouse by himself. The merchants are gossiping about the rookie who ripped the troll's head off, while Robin is out here glazing Eugene to the crowd like he's his PR manager. Poor Pellet is wiping sweat off his forehead, looking like he's about to crash out from all the manual labor, while the others are inside talking. Inside, this mustache merchant is acting like he hit the jackpot, laughing and promising Eugene he'll handle every single byproduct personally. Partek was worried this was a scam, but it turns out the firm is legit, and Eugene realizes having humans handle the social networks is a massive W. Suddenly, the door gets slammed open and some old man in a suit struts in like he's the main character of a different story. Partek is immediately alerted, but Eugene is just chilling in his chair, wondering who this old man thinks he is. It turns out he's the secretary for the branch manager, and Partek warns Eugene that this guy is definitely here to snatch the loot for a lowball price. Eugene locks in with a terrifying gaze, realizing this monocle-wearing fossil is trying to play with his money. The secretary starts yapping about how the troll head stories are just unverified rumors meant to inflate the price massive skill issue on his part. This guy really thinks he's him, calling the office shabby and thinking he's going to strip the flesh off Eugene in the deal. Big mistake. Eugene drops his aura, and the sheer pressure makes the old man realize he's absolutely cooked. The secretary is sweating buckets now as Eugene asks him exactly what kind of opportunity he's talking about. Bro is shaking so hard his monocle might fall off, stuttering about better terms because he realizes he's facing a monster. Eugene just stares him down until the old man starts bowing and apologizing for his life, realizing he's caught in 4K being a hater. The secretary literally sprints out the door in terror, leaving the mustache merchant crying tears of joy because he thinks Eugene stayed for him. The merchant is now a full-time glazer, pledging his unwavering support, while Eugene just nods because he liked having loyal minions. Eugene tells everyone to get outside because it's time to move while the secretary goes back to report his massive L to his boss. Then we see the branch manager, and oh my god, the red hair, the absolute queen energy. I mean, she's clearly a villain and I definitely don't think she's a total baddie or anything, but she says she's going to make things difficult for Eugene, and honestly, she can make things difficult for Eugene, and honestly, she can make things difficult for me too. I mean, she's probably mid, but her aura is crazy. The Slay Queen is watching from her window like a final boss, and I'm definitely not distracted by how good she looks while she plots. She sees Eugene acting all broke and decides it's time to drop a legendary gift to trap him in her web. Pellet is absolutely cooked when Eugene tells him he's staying behind to be a glorified shopkeeper. Bro really thought he was part of the main squad, but Eugene just stands there looking like a god while his thrall has a midlife crisis. Pellet starts pleading for his life, wondering why he's being benched while the real ones go to work. Eugene just hits him with that cold, unbothered stare, reminding him that his aura isn't even high enough to be an extra. Eugene asks a simple question, to put the kid back in his place and check his ego. Peled finally locks in and realizes a thrall's only job is to be the ultimate support system for his master. Eugene spells it out because bro is clearly slow. His only job is to manage the loot and the bag. Peled's eyes go dark as he realizes he's basically just a walking wallet with a skill issue. Eugene hands him off to a merchant like he's taking out the trash and walks away without looking back. Peled stops his tantrum because he knows Eugene is the only reason he isn't a corpse right now, so he decides to stand on business. Eugene dangles a tiny carrot by promising sword training later if they get rich. Suddenly, Peled's eyes are sparkling and the glazing is actually reaching record levels. This man really did the heart salute in the middle of the street. He's fully committed to being a loyal servant now. It's actually kind of tragic. The sun sets on the city in a massive flex of art quality, while Eugene and his squad of mid-mercenaries walk away from the shop. Eugene is checking his empty coin purse and the vibes are absolutely tragic. Mirian is flying around being a total nuisance while Eugene realizes basic supplies just deleted his entire bank account. He spots some high-tier loot in a shop window and stops dead in his tracks because the drip is calling his name. It's a full suit of white plate armor that looks like it belongs to a god. The aura on this thing is through the roof and Eugene is definitely feeling the temptation. Partek says it's the dream of every knight, but Eugene is a realist who only hears that it costs a fortune. He knows he needs to start a massive grind to afford that kind of protection. Suddenly, Rabin comes charging in like a maniac, kicking up a whole desert's worth of dust as he screams for attention. Bro is struggling for air while reporting a massive monster horde hitting the outskirts. The local guilds are getting folded and they need a heavy hitter to stop the crash out. Raban hits a dramatic pose because he knows exactly how to bait a broke vampire into a fight. He starts yapping about how a merchant city means zero transport costs and maximum profit for monster parts. He's basically telling Eugene that there's free money waiting for him outside the gates. Raban's eyes are literally bloodshot from greed, and Eugene is sold immediately. He's ready to stand on business and scoop up all that coin without hesitation. Suddenly, a pair of expensive boots blocks their path and stops the hype train. It's the old man's secretary, and he looks like he's about to see God because he's so out of breath. He presents a gift from the Slay Queen of Black Warhorse that looks like it was sculpted by the gods themselves. The horse is huffing steam and looking ready to catch a body. Eugene is actually impressed for once, which is a rare W for the side characters. The old man is shaking because Eugene's gaze is way too sharp for a normal person to handle. Eugene starts walking toward the horse and his aura becomes absolutely suffocating. Everyone is just holding their breath while he prepares to claim his new ride. He hops on the horse in one smooth motion and tells the old man to say thanks to his boss. Bro is literally too cool to even give a proper handshake. Eugene and Mirian zoom off into the distance like they've got nitro boosters. This horse is a literal cheat code, and the speed is leaving everyone in the dust. Partek and Rabin are left standing there looking like idiots while Eugene disappears. Partek realizes they have to run on foot like commoners, which is a massive skill issue. The old man is left in silence while the scene shifts to the dark forest where the ops are waiting. Some bottom-tier goblins are having a feast on a dead knight who clearly didn't know how to play the game. These green bozos really think they're the main characters today. They hear the thundering hooves of the black horse and realize the boss bard just appeared at the top of their vision. Eugene arrives and it's an absolute massacre as he slices through them like butter. Heads are flying and he's clearing the room without breaking a sweat. Mirian is worried everyone at the front line is dead, but Eugene is just locked in. He says all the better because he wants every single drop of loot for himself. He is him. Ro is jumping fences on his horse because sharing loot is for losers, and he is clearly not about that life. The forest is a total blur because Eugene is moving at Mach 10 while the foliage tries to keep up with his pace. The sun is hitting the leaves, but Eugene's red eyes are hitting harder. He's locked in and looking like absolute him right now. He rides straight into a chaotic battlefield where some blonde knight is trying to stand on business against a literal mob of orcs. The orcs are crashing out with zero chill, and the knight's horse literally folds from fear, catching us in 4K looking terrified. The horse completely dips and leaves him on the ground to struggle with his righteous knight speech while looking absolutely cooked. He looks up and sees the orcs surrounding Gim with zero escape. They are genuinely confused how he even graduated night school. He starts begging for him life like a total fraud, but suddenly a massive sword slice sends an orc's head flying into orbit. It's Eugene charging in on his horse, eyes glowing red and armor looking top tier, ready to show these mid-mobs what real aura looks like. He clears the entire area in one pass with a shockwave of blood, leaving the knight staring at him with a massive skill issue. He's really trying to get his name for his fanfic while an orc is behind her. Talk about having zero situational awareness. Eugene keeps smacking orcs while he starts laughing like he actually did something. The self-glazing is honestly reaching delusional levels. He looks back with a be for real expression and tells his names don't matter when you're about to be spider food in this hellhole. He gets a second wind and screams that he'll ask for his name again if he survives, which is a massive if, considering his performance. The events shift to the city where he's standing in the square glazing himself to the crowd, acting like he was the MC. He's posing and flexing his shiny gauntlets, asking the crowd if they're curious about the famed knight who was lucky to be with him. The crowd starts gossiping about the guy who rips out troll spines, and the hype for Eugene is reaching critical levels. The whole city is chanting Jan Eugene's name like he's the local messiah. The townspeople are professional glazers at this point. Meanwhile, in the office, the mayor is watching the crowd, realizing that Eugene's fame is getting too high to handle safely. Slay Queen is standing there looking. Her outfit is mid, I guess, saying she wants him famous, so he has more to lose. She drops the tea that Eugene's squire, Pelid, is actually a hidden bastard of a major house. She's definitely caught them in 4K. The mayor is intrigued by the drama, while Eugene is somewhere in the shadows just trying to secure the business bag. It turns out, they think Eugene is building a business empire just to support the bastard child, which is some wild mental gymnastics. Grandpa Mayor is laughing because he wants to buy off the knight backing the kid. He's planning to send a gift immediately. Slay Queen thanks her grandpa while looking like she's already won the game. I'm not saying she's a genius, but she's cooking, I guess. Later, she picks up her teacup with maximum elegance, believing she's the one holding the riverside for a thirsty man to find. Little did he know, she's taking a sip and planning to dig a well, waiting for her prey to gulp down whatever she's selling. At that moment, the door handle turns and a dark silhouette appears, ready to crash the party with some serious main character energy. Slay Queen tells him to come in, but even she's probably shook by Eugene's armor. The fit is literally 10/10 and dripping with aura. Eugene walks in looking like a a threat, while Slay Queen internally glazes his face while trying to act professional. Eugene is standing there with a massive power level in his new red and black armor, while the Slay Queen is absolutely glazing his drip, talking about how she got it from the best shop in town. This armor is made of ogre bone and special steel that even a dragon couldn't chew through, and Eugene just acts like it's a casual Tuesday while sitting for tea. He thanks her for the fancy hotel and the buffet that finally let his mercenaries stop looking like starving orphans. But the Slay Queen is clearly plotting something devious behind that smile. Out of nowhere, Eugene just stands up and says, "I'm out," leaving the Slay Queen looking absolutely confused because bro just ended the meeting on his own terms. He reminds her the contract is only for this one run, so he might never come back, and the manager starts biting her lip in a panic. She's probably just hungry. She isn't simping for him or anything? Definitely not. She screams at him to wait while he gives her the coldest shoulder in history, barely looking back because his aura is just too high to care about her feelings. The lady stands up and tries to act tough, telling him they still have more to discuss because she isn't ready to let go of her favorite knight. She tries to check him, telling him to stop playing dumb while they have a staring contest that could melt the library. Partek and Raven are in the back watching the drama, while the old man does the math and realizes Eugene's lifestyle is way too expensive for the budget. She gets cocky and reminds him everything has a price, even trying to threaten his honor like a classic villain. She's kind of iconic for that, but still a hater. Eugene's eyes start glowing red like a demon, and he just lets the aura leak, while she dares him to argue his way out of the debt. Instead of panicking, Eugene just drops a devious smirk because he knows she's already lost this fight. He points out she was the one who dumped gifts on him without asking, and then he asks if a mere merchant is really trying to threaten him right now. Bro is standing on massive business. The entire room is sweating bullets, while Partek just smirks because he knows the manager just accidentally triggered a boss fight. Eugene starts walking toward her like a predator, telling her he's already under contract and doesn't give a single flip what the commoners think of his honor. He gets right in her personal space to tell her she's about to learn what price really means, and she's looking completely folded by his presence. He roasts the whole company for being in bed with shady powers and trying to bully the hero who saved the city. Then he just dips for real this time. Partek adds salt to the wound by saying it's a pity they couldn't get along, leaving the Slay Queen looking absolutely crushed. She looks amazing when she's stressed. Whatever. The mustache guy tries to talk to her, but she's frozen. Then she snaps out of it and screams for Eugene to wait one more time. Little did he know, She was about to do a full 188, bowing down and apologizing for being a clown because she realized she can't handle his heat. She promises to fix the contract and give him whatever he wants because she's realized he's not like those other basic knights who chase clout. She admits he's far too dangerous to toy with, biting her lip again because her merchant instincts are telling her she needs him. It's getting a bit desperate, honestly. She gives him a desperate smile, and Eugene finally sits back down, looking like the absolute king of the room. He tells her it better be good, and she's so relieved she's literally clutching her chest and thanking him like he's her savior. Later in the forest, Miriam the fairy is flying around Eugene's new horse, glazing the armor even though it's mostly just for the aesthetics. The fairy is shouting that Eugene is the coolest in the world, while Partek looks over the new contract and realizes they hit the jackpot. It turns out this company has hundreds of branches and runs the whole Empire's dungeon access, so Eugene basically just got a VIP pass to everything. Partek is hyped and gives a thumbs up, but Eugene is just annoyed by the noise suddenly. The path is blocked by some new bums who think they're tough. This bald guy who looks like a rotten potato starts mocking Eugene's pretty face, clearly jealous because he's got zero riz and even less hair. Miriam starts roasting the potato guy, but then Kamara Tywin shows up waving his hand like they're best friends. Bro really thinks he's invited to the party. Eugene pulls up on his horse like he owns the place because bro literally has more aura than the entire forest combined. Kamara Tywin is out here glazing him immediately, asking if he should be calling him Lord now that he's officially him. Eugene is way too hot to care about titles and just tells him to say whatever, but it's obvious bro has leveled up since they last met. They start yapping about the situation, and it turns out Kamara's brother has a massive skill issue and hired a bunch of new mercenaries because he thinks he can actually stand on business. Kamara is leaning in like a gossip queen because something feels off about this new squad of ops. He's thinking back to the last mercenary band that got absolutely cooked and wiped out by wolves. Meanwhile, Eugene is just standing there looking majestic with those red eyes. Look at this bald meathead in the front. Bro really thinks he's a threat with that sketchy grin. He's giving off the same energy as a guy who's about to get folded in the first 5 minutes of an arc. Eugene just hits him with a cold stare because bro is literally unimpressed by the budget tier villain vibes. Kamara decides to double down on the glazing and asks Eugene to be the raid captain for the dungeon expedition. Suddenly, the bald NPC interrupts the conversation like he actually has a say in the matter. This bald guy is really out here asking if he gets to be the captain if Eugene dies in the dungeon. Absolute crash out energy. Kamara is stunned because bro is being beyond disrespectful to someone who could literally end his whole career with a flick of his wrist. The mercenary starts yapping about how a dungeon isn't a picnic and that life is cheap like flies. He walks right up to Eugene, trying to act like the alpha. Bro thinks he's intimidating, but Eugene is just standing there wondering why this side character is still talking. Eugene just looks at the guy with total indifference, basically telling him he'll be counting on him. The bald guy is grinning like he just won a debate. Bro is so cooked, and he doesn't even have a clue what's coming for him. Eugene walks off and casually calls him Baldy over his shoulder, dealing maximum emotional damage. Little Miriam flies around Eugene's head, panicking because it's obvious these guys are planning a betrayal. Eugene just tells her I know, because bro is always 5 steps ahead of these low IQ mercs. Miriam is kind of a cutie, but whatever. She's just a fairy. I'm not simping. Stay focused. Meanwhile, Bertel is in the back doing his own villain monologue in his head. Bro thinks he's a genius for planning to use these mercs to take Eugene out inside the dungeon. Imagine being this delusional. Bro really thinks he can take out a high-tier vampire with some mid-tier goons. Later, the whole squad marches into the dungeon with torches high, thinking they're actually going to accomplish something. It's a classic dungeon entrance, but half these guys are just here to be part of a body count. Eugene drops a devious smirk because he finds this whole assassination plot fairly entertaining. He immediately starts cooking the monsters. Look at that motion, bro is already slicing through enemies before they can even process that they're dead. Bro is literally just walking through the cavern while goblin bodies pile up in his wake. He's pinning them to the walls and clearing the path like a one-man army. The rest of the group is just standing there watching him work in 4K. Another goblin gets its head split open like a melon. Skill issue for the monsters. The bald mercenary is watching from the back, sweating buckets because he realizes the rumors about Eugene's power weren't just glazing. He really is that guy. Eugene is out here fighting at the front, covered in monster juice and looking insanely cool while doing it. He sets up a massive pink magic shield to protect the entire group of useless NPCs behind him. Bro is literally carrying the whole raid on his back. The bald guy is malting. He's gritting his teeth because Eugene is so efficient, he can't even find a moment to try anything. Bro is really struggling to find an opening to be a hater. He's reaching for a poison-coated blade while Eugene is distracted with the monsters. Bro thinks a little toothpick is going to do something to a vampire. The audacity of this man is actually wild. Eugene stops the group because they're entering the mid-tier monster zone. He tells everyone that he can't guarantee their lives anymore, and only the ones who can keep up should follow. Bro is literally giving them a chance to leave, but they're too dumb to take the hint. The mercenaries act all loyal like, we follow the captain. But Baldy is secretly thinking this is his big chance. He tells his core squad to wait back for a bit, trying to be a sneaky tactician. Bro, you're not that smart. Captain Partek and Robin are totally confused by the play. They think Eugene has some big brain strategy going on. Little do they know, Bro is just setting stage to smoke these traitors. Eugene walks deeper into the dark, thinking back to the meathead Galfredick. Bro is actually feeling a bit lonely without his favorite musclehead around to distract him. The vibes are definitely not peak right now. He starts glazing Galfredick's leadership skills in his head, remembering how Bro used to lift everyone's spirits. Compared to the original squad, these new guys are just a bunch of low-tier rabble. Eugene stops in his tracks. He's wondering how Galfredick would handle this situation if he were here. Probably by just smashing everything in sight, which honestly sounds like a plan. The mercenaries are in the dark shadows, laughing and drawing their weapons. They really think they've got the drop on a vampire. Bro, you're literally about to get caught in 4K. They finally drop the act and surround Eugene with their torches and weapons. Eugene just looks at them and says, fine. Bro is so tired of these filler characters trying to act like main villains. Mirian starts charging up the blue aura, and it looks absolutely beautiful, and Bro is literally about to grant their wish to die. If you're that eager to get cooked, Eugene is happy to provide the heat. The mercenaries are screaming because they realize they just poked the bear. Mirian is in the corner laughing her head off. She knows the beatdown is about to be legendary. She's got a great smile. But I'm just saying that as a critic, obviously. Boom. Mirian sets off a magic explosion that blows out every single torch in the room. Now they're trapped in pitch-black darkness with an angry vampire. Absolute nightmare fuel for these NPCs. It's a total crash out in the dark. The mercs are losing their minds because they didn't know the MC could use magic too. Imagine not doing your research on the guy you're trying to assassinate. Massive skill issue. The bald guy is screaming to relight the torches, but the group is just slashing at each other in the dark like idiots. They're accidental team killing while Eugene is just chilling in the shadows. Eugene's eyes glow in the dark like a predator who just found lunch. Bro is in his element now. He starts picking them off in the silence, and the last thing they see is his silhouette before they get folded. Absolute peak performance. Mercenary bums are getting absolutely folded in the dark, and they don't even know who's hitting them, while the Blady screams for a counterattack against the wind because his team is already cooked. One mercenary is literally confused, asking if they're hitting friends, right before his throat gets turned into a fountain by an invisible blade because his situational awareness is a total skill issue. The leg is gone and the vibes are rancid as we finally see him, with Eugene squatting in the shadows like a predator while his red eyes glow like high beams, pouring pure aura into the room. Maverick Blady is out here crashing out, frantically striking Flint like a caveman because he knows that without light, Eugene is just going to farm his entire squad like low-level mobs. He's striking those stones like his life depends on it, which it does, sweating buckets while praying for the squad to stay together. But it's too late because they're already caught in 4K. Maybe it's time for me to switch to 8K. Maverick is shook to his core as those heavy footsteps approach, and Eugene walks up in those red detailed boots just to let him know that the Reaver has officially arrived. Eugene leans in like a toxic ex and whispers, asking if the old man needs some light, showing a level of disrespect that is honestly legendary. He literally helps Maverick strike the spark with his own hand, glazing the enemy's effort just to show him how terribly weak human eyes are in the dark. The resulting spark illuminates a massive, terrifying monster in the background, making it clear that Maverick is just staring at his own funeral. Maverick realizes he's facing a literal monster as Eugene bares those fangs, and the mercenary captain finally understands that he is completely cooked. Later, back at the Taiwan castle, the weather is as mid as a family drama with lightning striking over the mountains because the plot is about to get spicy. Kamara bursts through the door like he's looking for the remote, looking absolutely stressed out of his mind by the news. Eugene is just standing by the window looking insanely hot for no reason. But don't look at his hair like that, I'm not glazing him. He's just a vampire, and it's whatever. Kamara and Bertel start arguing about the rumors. And while Bertel thinks he's standing on business, he's really just standing on a mountain of lies. Eugene doesn't even say a word and just tosses Maverick's beat-up body onto the floor, dropping the witness like a sack of unwanted potatoes. Maverick starts snitching immediately, confessing under Eugene's gaze that he tried to kill the MC on Bertel's orders, leaving Bertel's face doing gymnastics to hide the panic. Chimera finally snaps and starts yelling at his brother, asking just how far he's planning to go with this obvious cap. Bertel tries to bully the old man into silence, but Maverick is totally folded by Eugene's influence, calling the MC Lord, while Bertel's plan falls apart in real time. Maverick decides to exit stage left through the window, shouting that a useless wretch like him deserves to die as he shatters the glass. He lands right on a statue's sword in the courtyard, a brutal ending that leaves the servants horrified and the Tywin brothers stunned. Bertel is still trying to save his reputation like a loser, but Kamara is just disgusted that his brother is sighing in relief now that the witness is dead. Bertel tries to turn the heat on Eugene, questioning his knightly pride, like he isn't the one who just got caught in 4K. Eugene looks him dead in the eyes and asks if he's really innocent on his honor, and that red-eye glow means the talking part of the night is officially over. Eugene draws that red blade that shines almost as bright as my future. Not that I'm simping for his gear. A trial by combat is officially on the table, and Eugene is smirking because he knows Bertel is about to get washed in front of the whole family. The castle gossip mill is already working overtime, with everyone whispering about the second young master being a total clown who ordered a contract killing. Even the maids are talking smack, and honestly, that maid with the braids is a total baddie. Look at that face. I mean, she's okay, I guess. Stop looking at me. Eugene stands in the middle of the courtyard looking like the main character he is, while the crowd gathers to watch the ultimate crash out. Bertel is staring at his sword, probably realizing he's about to be a victim, while Kamara watches with a heavy heart. Eugene raises his blade as the duel begins, proving that the truth will be decided by whoever doesn't end up folded on the pavement. Bertel dives in like a total scrub while Eugene just stands there with that I'm him energy, making the man look like he's fighting a statue. Bertel is actually screaming at the top of his lungs, swinging with zero technique, while Eugene just stares at him with those glowing red eyes like he's bored of the plot. A massive clang echoes through the courtyard as Bertel tries to force his way through, but Eugene's defense is absolute, sending sparks and debris flying everywhere while the blonde brother struggles to move an inch. It's a literal blade lock, and Bertel is baring his teeth like a feral dog, but Eugene just looks at him like he's a fly on the wall, showing that massive aura difference. Eugene remembers how in past when Bertel used to chase him, but now Eugene just shows his fangs and reminds him that he's been chased by bigger trash than this for a decade. Eugene hits him with the no-you parry and unleashes a horizontal slash so bright it basically clears the courtyard, leaving Bertel completely folded. Eugene slams his blade against the blonde sword again, making the man literally gag as he realizes he's getting mid-diffed in front of everyone. The sword goes flying into the air and Eugene's arm is literally dripping with dark aura, proving that Bertel is absolutely cooked. Eugene walks away with zero respect, telling the man to pick his weapon back up while Bertel sits in the dirt looking like a total fraud. Bertel is down bad and shaking on the floor while his brother Kamara watches from the sidelines, realizing that Eugene's swordsmanship is actually crack. The mercenaries are all caught in 4K watching the beatdown as Kamara finally decides to step in and stop the bullying. While Bertel is panting like he just ran a marathon, Eugene starts powering up with red lightning, shooting out of his eyes. It's over for the ops. He is truly him. Eugene moves faster than the frames can handle, chops Bertel's arm, and even though Kamara tries to yell for him to stop, the strike is already done. Eugene looks back with blood on his face and Kamara is literally sweating, realizing he's dealing with a monster that doesn't care about his feelings. Kamara stands on business and declares Eugene the winner while Bertel keeps yapping from the ground about how he can still fight, even though he's already folded. Kamara tells his brother to accept his L and go to prison. But Bertel is fully crashing out, baring his teeth like he didn't just get his life handed to him. Bertel is throwing a whole tantrum, screaming about what he did wrong while his brother tries to calm him down, but he's too far gone. He lunges one more time for a sneak attack, blaming Eugene for his entire pathetic life. It's a massive skill issue at this point. A bright flash of light cuts through the drama and Eugene is just standing there after a lightning-fast draw. This man is insanely hot. I mean, cool. Eugene walks away like nothing happened while Bertel's body starts glitching out because he just realized his head isn't attached anymore. Kamara watches the headless body slump over and realizes his brother should have taken the exit when he had the chance. Eugene sheathes his blade while Bertel's head is just chilling on the floor. The mercenaries are absolutely traumatized by the aura Eugene is putting out. Eugene heads out without saying a word, leaving Kimura to mourn his mid-brother who didn't know when to quit. The scene shifts to a peaceful harbor as Eugene strolls down a hallway, probably looking for someone else to humiliate. The lake fairy Miriam is yapping in his ear about how he used his first thrall just to get a confession, and we get a quick flashback of Eugene being a total menace to that lady. Eugene says the old guy was too weak anyway, and it was just a smart play, making Miriam realize this vampire is cold-blooded to the core. He tells the fairy he doesn't need a harem of slaves because managing weaklings is a total hassle. He's strictly about that solo leveling grind. Eugene pushes into a room where the Slay Queen and her people are yapping about Galfredick being missing for 2 weeks. The mustache man starts glazing Eugene for his successful raid immediately, while the branch manager looks fine. As always, not that I'm simping, I just have eyes. Eugene ignores all the hype and gets straight to the point, asking what happened to the meathead Galfredick, which makes the boss lady turn dead serious. The story kicks back 2 weeks to a carriage racing through the mud because the meathead Galfredick decided to join a labyrinth raid and likely did something stupid. Meanwhile, Eugene is riding through the woods, looking way too hot for his own good, though his aura is heavy since Galfredick went missing like a complete amateur. Eugene's red eyes are locked in because the high-tier monster zone is no joke, and Galfredick is basically cooked if he doesn't find him soon. Eugene pulls up to the manor in this insane red and black armor, walking through the door with enough drip to drown the entire county. Jevon Everglow is already on the balcony glazing Eugene immediately, talking about how he's way more handsome than the rumors said. Bro, get in line. Eugene stands on business and shows a little respect to the Lord. But Jevon just invites him inside to yap about the circumstances. They get into the office and Jevon starts claiming Galfredick's ambition went too far, acting like the meathead just charged into the upper levels on a whim. Jevon explains that the upper levels are basically a forbidden zone where the master of the labyrinth lives. And honestly, it sounds like a massive skill issue for anyone who goes there. Eugene listens while Lugettis sits in the background looking like a total NPC, yapping about how Galfredick was blinded by glory and caused trouble for everyone. Jevon introduces Lugettis as their land knight who led the raid, and the guy is lounging on the sofa like he actually did something impressive. Lugettis is caught in 4K being a hater, bragging about winning a tournament and beating Galfredick himself, but Eugene's face shows he clearly doesn't think this guy is him. Jevon tries to play diplomat by apologizing and then asks if Eugene and the meathead are actually deep friends. Eugene has a mental flashback to Galfredick being a total goofball and realizes calling him a friend is a huge L, while Miriam is in the back getting muted for being annoying. Jevon drops the grim news that after a month, they just declare people dead because everyone who goes to the upper levels vanishes absolute rip. It's been 3 weeks, meaning there's 1 week left before it's over. So Eugene stands up ready to crash out and find his friend right now. Jevon tells him to chill for 3 days so they can prep a raid party with Lugettis, who is just sitting there smirking like he's actually going to help. Eugene says thanks and starts to dip. But Jevon mentions they hired a mage to help out, which has Miriam looking totally shook. Eugene walks through the town looking like the MC he is, while Miriam throws a whole tantrum about Lugettis having a nasty attitude, which is facts, honestly. Under his hood, Eugene is realizing the math isn't mathing because Galfredick already had his knighthood settled, so the ambition story is total cap. A flashback shows Galfredick was hyped and settled, making the sudden change to a dangerous labyrinth raid look sus as hell. Suddenly the townspeople start tweaking and pointing toward the center of the village because some messiah drama is popping off. Some old cultist guy is on stage preaching about red shadows on the moon and the goddess being wrathful, which is a massive L for the town's collective IQ. Eugene pushes through the crowd while the preacher mentions a skilled knight vanished recently, obviously talking about our missing meathead. The old man is screaming about sacrificing calf blood and meat, and honestly, bro is doing way too much for a Tuesday. The crowd is actually confused for once, asking if this is a cult. Yeah, use your brain, it's clearly a bunch of weirdos. Eugene is judging the whole vibe when some random kid runs up and shoves a flyer in his face, telling him to believe while he still can. Eugene looks at the eye symbol on the paper and starts connecting the dots between the earthquakes and whatever Galfredick was actually doing. Eugene decides 3 days is too long and tells Miriam they're going now, but then pink hair appears out of nowhere to ruin the vibe. This is the new mage, and she immediately clocks Eugene as a vampire, leaving him absolutely caught in 4K with no defense. She starts smirking and looking well. She's a mage from the Pilgrim School, and I guess she's okay looking, whatever, but she's totally mocking him for strolling around in broad daylight like a bold op. Eugene catches pink hair lacking in an alley and grabs her throat like she owes him rent, while out in the streets, some cultist is crashing out about a messiah. Bro is literally suffocating her while looking cold as ice, asking her how she managed to recognize his vampire aura so fast. He slams her against the stone wall because he is him, and she is definitely not, but she's out here struggling to talk while his red gauntlet is crushing her windpipe. Eugene's red eyes are staring into her soul, making Mirian the fairy realize that the name Pigram actually sounds super familiar. Mirian realizes he's gotta stop this and flies right between them, screaming for Eugene to chill because he can't kill this girl yet. It turns out pink hairs from the Pigram School, a group of mages who have spent generations basically glazing vampires as their servants. Eugene finally lets go and pink hair's soul almost leaves her body in a chibi ghost form. Yup, she passed out. Later, she starts yelling about how he's a total villain for the sneak attack. Eugene gives a half-hearted apology while Mirian is still fuming in the background. But pink hair decides to be a professional and clear her throat for a proper intro. She admits her school can sense vampires the moment they see them, which is honestly a skill issue for Eugene's secret identity, though she says meeting him is a total honor. Pink hair asks if he and Galfredic are besties, which makes Eugene internally decide to sew that meathead's mouth shut. But then she reveals she was actually there when Galfredic vanished. Eugene is suddenly standing on business and wants the details, so Pink Hair explains she personally signed up for the raid just to get some monster loot. Flashback time, she's in the Everglow Labyrinth, a place that's been cleared for 100 years, so everyone was moving forward in high spirits. Suddenly, a massive earthquake shakes the entire labyrinth, and the ground starts falling apart, sending the whole party into a panic. As Pink Hair is about to fall into the abyss, Galfredic's absolute unit of a tattooed arm reaches out and catches her wrist. The meathead Galfredic saves her by tossing her back to safety, but he loses his balance and falls into the darkness himself like a total hero. She was left crying at the edge while the rest of the mercenaries acted like total ops, blaming Galfredic for causing the quake by opening a forbidden gate. Back in the present, she said she had to tell Eugene the truth since she owed his friend her life, even as she didn't expect Eugene to be a vampire. Eugene's eye goes sharp as he realizes someone lied to him or twisted the story. But Pink Hair adds that she saw something else down in that pit. Deep below where Galfredic fell, she saw an enormous glowing red eye symbol drawn on the ground that looked absolutely cursed. Eugene is shook by the description, and Pink Hair points out that the symbol looks exactly like the leaflets the crazy cultists were handing out. Little did he know, that winged eye symbol is the mark of some serious trouble that's been hiding right under their noses. Meanwhile, in a dark temple, a bunch of hooded freaks are bowing down and worshipping a giant glowing eye statue like it's the end of the world. They're out here sacrificing people on altars, talking about blood and flesh to welcome some messiah, which is a major red flag. The cult leader is grinning under his hood because he knows his boss is about to awaken and probably fold the entire city. Back at the camp, the mercenaries are restocking barrels and crates because the whole army is finally assembled and ready to depart. Eugene and Lugettis head toward the labyrinth gate, with Lugettis asking if he's excited, while Eugene just hopes they aren't going in to find a corpse. Lugettis just laughs because he thinks Galfredic is built different and isn't the type to die that easily. He's acting all jovial, but Eugene is keeping an eye on this guy's movements because he knows Galfredic's disappearance was no accident. Eugene is locked in for the long haul, but he's interrupted by a bunch of Templars who show up just to bow and glaze him. The Templar leader starts calling Eugene a devout knight and an honor to fight with, while Mirian is sweating in the back because the irony is literally lethal. Lugettis is busy glazing Eugene, talking about how he should basically be a vampire holy knight because he's so special. Bro is yapping way too much while the rest of the squad stands in the woods. Lugettis thinks he's slick with that devious smile, but Eugene is just standing there with zero respect in his eyes. He sees right through the fraud's game. The squad heads toward a massive mountain gate that looks like it belongs in an Elder Scrolls dungeon. Eugene leads the pack while Captain Partek and the others try to keep up. They enter the labyrinth, and it's basically an aquarium with statues spitting water everywhere. Mirian, the cutest little fairy ever not, that I care is absolutely losing it over the water energy. Captain Partek is drinking fountain water like he's at a gym, totally unaware. Eugene is standing in the shadows, already thinking about how this place would be a perfect spot to bury some ops. Lugettis starts glazing Eugene again, hyping up the zero death run they've had so far. He's acting like a best friend, but his aura is smelling like a snitch. This snake Lugettis tells Eugene to chill and be patient, flashing a smile that only a mother could love. Eugene's red eyes are already locked in, waiting for the betrayal. Lugettis is yapping about how the Everglow house has seen through all the traps, which is usually code for, we're about to get cooked. Eugene isn't buying the hype for a second. The mask finally slips and Lugettis calls the casualties an offering to the labyrinth. Eugene's face says it all. Bro is actually disgusted by this fraud's lack of business. Suddenly the whole place starts shaking like a cheap washing machine. Rocks are falling and everyone is having a major skill issue while the floor begins to shift. Eugene senses the trap closing in as the massive mechanical gears start grinding like they're in a steampunk nightmare. The mercenaries and horses are getting separated by the moving walls. Romery is panicking, which honestly looks cute, but she's definitely cooked if she doesn't move. Ligeti stands on a high ledge looking down like he's the main character, while Eugene is stuck below. The betrayal is officially in 4K. Through a closing gap in the stone, Ligeti laughs and says Eugene is standing right where the shortcut is. The gap shuts and Eugene's red eyes are the last thing seen in the dark. The giant ornate gears clank together, fully reconfiguring the room. Eugene stands in his black and red plate armor, looking absolutely cold. Eugene realizes Galfredic didn't just disappear, he was framed by this clown Lugetti's. Romery points ahead, her face going pale with pure terror. Eugene sees it and his eyes widen in total rage. Our meathead Galfredic is tied to a stone cross, covered in blood and looking completely folded. Eugene doesn't think, he just leaps off the ledge with his cape flying like wings. He's coming down like a meteor to save his boy. He lands and checks Galfredic's pulse, lifting his chin gently. He's still alive, but barely. Eugene is officially crashing out after seeing his friend like this. Miriam flies in screaming about a different texture below them. She's terrified, and for once, she's not wrong about the vibe check. A massive wind starts swirling in the center of the arena. Romery is struggling to stay on her feet while Eugene stands his ground. Two massive glowing red eyes light up in the pitch-black abyss. Something big is about to emerge, and it's not looking friendly. It's a minotaur, and this thing is an absolute unit with purple fire coming out of its skull. It towers over everyone like a final boss. Romery is losing her mind because minotaurs are top-tier monsters. The beast starts charging, making the ground shake with every heavy footstep. Eugene boots off a stone pillar, showing off some insane movement. He's closing the gap before the monster can even swing. Red and purple energy explode as they clash midair. Eugene is literally trading blows with a monster 10 times his size. He is him. The impact sends Eugene flying back through the smoke. Romery is screaming in the background because she thinks they're about to be packed. The minotaur swings a massive blade that looks like it weighs a ton. Eugene is clinging to the wall, trying to stay in the fight. Another massive explosion of light as the monster smashes the ground. Everything is getting destroyed. The ground under Galfredic's altar gives way. The meathead is sliding straight into the abyss while tied to a cross. Eugene reaches out with his hand, but the distance is too great. Galfredic is falling into the dark, and it looks like it's game over. Eugene finally snaps and releases a massive red magic circle. His aura is so high it's literally cracking the air around him. Eugene is screaming at Romery, his fangs bared like a true monster. She's trying to hold him back with a protective dome, but it's not working. She's crying about how they'll both die, but Eugene's got that don't care, didn't ask energy. He's ready to crash out for real. He puts his sword right to Romery's throat and tells her she overstepped. It's cold, but honestly, she needed to hear it. Romery bows her head in defeat, while Eugene looks at her with total disgust. He tells her she needs to be more cool-headed if she wants to live. Eugene heads toward a bright light in the wall, leaving the stressed-out pink hair behind. He's on a mission now. Little did they know, Lugetes is already waiting in the light. He's acting like he barely survived, but we all know he's a total fraud. That snake Lugetes flashes a grin, but Eugene is already in his face. The Everglow squad stands behind their master like a bunch of extras. Eugene grabs the fraud by the throat and looks him in the eye. He knows exactly who did that to Galfredic, and he's about to cook the whole room. Lugetes is out here doing the absolute most, grabbing Eugene with some weird red energy hand like he actually has aura. Bro is yapping about a reunion and acting like he's the main character, telling Eugene he's ruder than the rumor said. Eugene just stares at him with those glowing red eyes, clearly thinking about how fast he can fold this fraud. The air is heavy with about to crash out energy as the red lightning starts humming and the tension hits the ceiling. Eugene delivers a get-off-me flex that sends the energy hand-packing. And even Romery, who is a total 10/10 by the way, not that I'm looking, is absolutely shook by the brute strength he just displayed. Eugene starts glowing purple and shows off a magic seal on his palm like he's in a midlife crisis, claiming Eugene's power isn't actually his own, while the dark energy starts swirling around him. Romery, looking majestic even with all this chaos, seriously explains that this banned magic transfers power from non-humans, but Lugetes just calls it a cowardly excuse for the weak who want to hoard power. This Lugetti's guy's glazing himself so hard, talking about being chosen by God to survive the despair, while Eugene just gives him a cold, "I see," like he's listening to a toddler tell a fake story. Eugene finally stands on business, calling out Lugetti's for being a total fraud who borrowed someone else's strength just to beat Galfredic, and now he's ready to remind this clown of his place. The red lightning goes absolutely nuclear as Eugene launches a strike so fast it turns the entire scene into a crimson explosion of pure disrespect and raw power. Romery is caught in 4K wondering if any normal vampire can even unleash that kind of terrifying aura, while Lugetti's realizes he's cooked because Eugene was hiding his real strength the whole time. They start throwing hands for real, Lugetti's grinning like a psycho because he thinks he's actually doing something, but Eugene is moving with that high-speed your mid energy that's impossible to track. Lugetti's decides to play dirty and stomps the floor, activating a trap that sends Romery tumbling into a pit. Honestly, someone save her, she's way too pretty to be falling into garbage holes like that. The floor literally vanishes into a labyrinth abyss, and Lugetti's has the nerve to tell Eugene to fall nicely, like he just won the fight. What a certified hater move. Eugene lets out a desperate scream for Romery as she disappears into a purple magic circle at the bottom, and you can tell he's about to turn this entire place into a graveyard for that. The descent continues as Eugene plummets into the darkness, but even while falling, he's got more aura and style than most characters do while standing perfectly still. Lugetti's is peeking over the edge like a weirdo watching them fall. But Eugene isn't done yet, swinging his blade mid-air to show that he's never out of the fight even in freefall. The blade grazes past Lugetti's face in a moment of pure tension, but the fraud manages to dodge by a hair, looking entirely too unbothered for someone who almost got his head sliced off. It turns out Lugetti's was just using Galfredic as bait this whole time because he knew a head-on fight with Eugene would be a massive skill issue for him, so he chose the coward's route. Now the villain is fully crashing out with a psychotic grin, announcing that the final sacrifice is ready as the entire room starts glowing with sinister purple seals and terrifying energy. Romery is down there struggling with the magic circles, apologizing because she can't hold the spell anymore, while the whole labyrinth starts crumbling into giant pillars of rubble. Eugene starts walking off toward the blood pool like he's got a secret mission, leaving Romery behind to wonder where on earth he's going in the middle of all this collapsing stone. Poor Romery, who looks incredible even when she's covered in dirt. Just saying is regretting every life choice that led her to this hellscape, wondering why she didn't just pretend not to know anything and run. At that moment, she stops in her tracks as she sees Eugene walking through the red haze carrying Galfredic's folded body, looking like the absolute boss he is. Eugene drops the meathead and asks if she can save him, and when she tries to give a mid-answer about her healing specialty, he hits her with a stare so cold it could freeze the sun. She takes the hint, gets to work immediately, kneeling in a literal pool of blood to start the healing magic because saying no to Eugene right now is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Miriam flies in to report that they're in a completely isolated boss room with no exit at all, meaning it's finally time for Eugene to handle the final boss with no distractions. The fairy realizes something is seriously wrong. The energy here is crazy because the blood pool isn't just liquid, it's actually alive and pulsing with a weird energy. They look around and realize the walls are literally covered in giant, glowing red eyeballs staring them down, which is a major red flag and honestly just super weird. Eugene stares back at those creepy stone eyes, realizing this is exactly what Romery saw before everything went south, and the vibes in this room are officially cursed. Miriam explains she can't control this blood because its owner is still alive, and right on cue, the entire pool starts swirling and exploding like a liquid nightmare. A massive, fleshy blood arm explodes out of the floor as Eugene draws his sword, looking completely ready to face whatever abomination is about to crawl out of the red muck. While Romery is frantically healing Galfredic, Eugene tells Miriam to find an opening we can use to escape because he's about to enter demolish everything mode. A giant blood demon fully spawns in with a bullhead and massive purple flames, looking like a total nightmare, and Eugene realizes he needs to protect his folded teammates. Eugene locks in, deciding he needs to take out the monster's legs first to kill its mobility, and he charges in with a look in his eyes that screams, "You're already cooked." He dodges a massive swipe from the demon with a clean slide, showing off the kind of movement that makes the ops look like they're moving in slow motion while the red energy trails behind him. He delivers a crushing blow to the monster's lower body, red energy spraying everywhere as he prepares to end the fight right now before things get even worse. The blade clangs against the monster's hide with a sharp ring, and Eugene clicks his tongue in annoyance because this thing is actually tanky. What a total nuisance of a boss. the monster opens its massive mouth and starts charging a yellow energy beam. And it looks like it's about to try and cook everyone in the room with one blast. Eugene responds by unleashing a massive crimson energy slash that cuts through the air like a hot knife through butter, filling the entire room with a blinding red light. The shock wave from the monster's force pushes him back, but he stands his ground, gritting his teeth against the sheer pressure of the demon's counterattack. He jumps off a pillar and prepares for a savage downward strike. His arm armored up with dark red energy as he moves in to finish this monster once and for all. Eugene lands on a stone pillar like he's trying to audition for a gothic movie, staring down a giant flaming demon. Bro is standing on business, but that monster's aura is actually disgusting. It turns out a regular sword is a total skill issue against this boss, so Eugene starts cooking with his own blood. He's channeling that dark energy into a broken hilt because apparently he's too cool for a real blade. At that moment, he manifests a massive crimson energy sword that looks way too heavy for his pretty boy arms. He looks insanely hot. He looks like a total weirdo, whatever, ready to jump the ops. Eugene goes for a headfirst dive into the red mist, crashing out with zero hesitation. Little did he know, being the MC doesn't mean you don't get smacked. He delivers a massive slash, but it's too shallow, which is just code for a massive skill issue. Bro is gritting his teeth because the demon isn't even flinching. The demon decides it's time for a reality check and delivers a flaming pimp slap that sends Eugene flying. Bro is absolutely cooked, catching a GAH in 4K. He's sliding across the floor like a total fraud, while the demon just stands there towering over everything. The scale difference is crazy. Eugene looks like a literal bug. Meanwhile, Romery is losing her mind looking at Galfredick, who is folded on the ground. She looks gorgeous, even when she's crying. Wait, no, she looks messy. I'm not glazing. Shut up. Eugene is struggling to even grab a rock, realizing Romery was right about this high-rank monster being built different. Bro is really hurting right now. The demon gets right in his face, looking like it's about to end his whole career. Eugene's wide eye says everything. He knows he's about to be a pack. Suddenly, massive red energy claws start tearing the atmosphere apart as Eugene tries to lock in. The pressure is insane, making everyone in the room feel like fodder. Romery is screaming her head off for him, looking like a literal angel, a loud pilgrim, while Eugene looks like he's about to meet his ancestors. Bro starts yapping about powerlessness like he's in a deep poem, while the demon is just charging up a purple fireball to send him to the lobby. Eugene gets absolutely turned into a pincushion by red energy spikes. It's a total crash-out fail, and he's left wondering why it hurt so much. Skill issue. He's floating in a red void now, looking like he's officially reached the find out part of the mess around chart. His eyes are rolled back. He's truly folded. Romery is staring at the meathead Galfredick, who is still taking a nap while his friend is literally dying. Talk about a bad teammate. Wait, the meathead actually opens an eye. Galfredick is finally waking up from his nap, but honestly, he's probably just gonna get folded again. Romery is shook to her core, staring into the blood pool where Eugene is just chilling like he's at a spa. The tension is reaching a breaking point. She's yapping about how a vampire can't beat this thing, totally glazing the demon's power level while Eugene gets skewered again. The demon opens its mouth to charge a final laser because it's tired of the talking. Romery thinks they're dead, and honestly, looking at them, they're definitely cooked. Romery starts her "I'm useless" speech, which is cap because she's a 10. But then Galfredick grabs her arm like he's actually going to do something. The meathead is crying about how it's his fault they're in this mess. Yeah, no duh, bro. Your survival skills are a literal 0. We get a flashback to Lugetti's being an absolute hater, using Galfredick as bait. Lugetti's really stood on business being the worst person alive. Galfredick is watching Eugene die and feels like a total fraud. He's looking at his friend from the ground, realizing he's too weak to help. He starts glazing Eugene's inner resolve from back in the day, talking about how he wanted to stand by his side. Bro, just say you're a fan and move on. The meathead finally stands up to face the demon. He's covered in blood and looking like he's ready to be a sacrifice. It's giving heroic exit, but it's mostly just a skill issue. Galfredick pushes Romery out of the way to take the heat. He's smiling at Eugene while he prepares to be a shield. Truly a simp for friendship. Bro gets turned into a literal kebab by the demon's spikes, still calling Eugene friend. He's officially folded for the last time. Ripped to a real meathead. Eugene sees his buddy get deleted and something finally snaps. He's lying there in his own blood, and you can see the rage loading. A massive crimson explosion rocks the entire room, nearly blowing Romery away. She looks stunning in the shockwave. She looks like she's struggling. Whatever. Eugene is rising from a vortex of pure blood and shadow. The aura is off the charts. Bro is finally becoming him. His eyes have changed to some crazy demonic pattern. The demon looks confused, but it's too late. Eugene is about to crash out on everyone. He moves so fast the demon can't even track him, shredding that flaming skull like it's paper. The ops are officially crying now. The demon is getting deleted while the blood pool starts swirling in a giant whirlpool. Eugene is literally draining the map to power up. Look at the drip. Eugene has a red crown, white hair, and fangs now. Romery is absolutely speechless, and honestly, so am I. He's a vampire king now. Bro pulls out a massive blood scythe and starts snarling like a beast. He's not here for games anymore. He's here to clear the room. Romery realizes he's not a normal vampire. No kidding, he just went from getting folded to absolute unit in 5 seconds. Her face is perfect though. Red lightning is striking everywhere as Eugene reaches for the sky. He's got that main character energy that makes everyone else look like background NPCs. The stone eyes of the sanctuary are closing because even the building is scared of him. Eugene's red gaze is the only thing left glowing in the dark. The blood lake drops like a stone, leaving the floor dry and the demon dead. Eugene is standing there in his new form like a total menace. Romery is safe, and I guess the MC finally locked in. The Minotaur is out here cheating with high-rank recovery speeds that make no sense. Pink Hair is staring at this fraud and realizing she's absolutely cooked because his fatal wounds are closing in an instant. This whole labyrinth is basically a giant blood pack healing the monster while it roars. Eugene is locked in though, his red eyes glowing as he prepares to show this beast who is actually him. Eugene crashes out and delivers a devastating blow right into the massive mechanical eye, making blood spray everywhere like a fountain. Pink Hair is screaming because bro just assaulted a literal eyeball, and the impact is pure chaos. He's moving so fast the monster is just caught in 4K getting blitz from every angle. Eugene lunges back into the center of the structure with zero respect for the laws of physics. The Minotaur gets shredded into lunch meat by a flurry of red energy slashes. Eugene lands and realizes the big guy was just a mid-tier distraction. The real master of the labyrinth hasn't even stepped up yet. It turns out the missing people were being devoured by the labyrinth itself, which is actually the god these cultists were glazing. The environment was literally arranged to keep humans alive just long enough to serve them as snacks. Now this god is enraged and wants to destroy the entire land. These cultists in the back are praying for a messiah because they have zero survival skills and are about to be folded. Eugene is showing peak vampire aura while the cultists are begging for mercy. Lugetti stands at the gate looking like a manipulator who's just waiting for the salvation to rain down on his head. Lugettes is smirking like a total weirdo who just opened the eyes of a monster. Meanwhile, Pink Hair is flabbergasted because the entire blood pool just vanished. Total skill issue for the labyrinth's plumbing. The golden sphere explodes with purple lightning that looks like it could fry an entire city. A massive eye opens in the center of the rings and the vibe just shifted from bad to apocalyptic. Something absolutely demonic is bursting out of that purple energy. The true master of the dungeon has finally logged on, and it's looking to ruin everyone's day. I skipped this row. The monster is roaring with a giant eye embedded in its chest, looking like an eldritch horror eject. It's covered in purple flames and ready to crash out on anyone in its path. The sheer pressure of the monster's aura blows Pink Hair back while it flies upward. She's asking where it's going, but bro is clearly just looking for a better view to start the massacre. The GoldenEye structure gets turned into scrap metal as the boss breaks out through the ceiling. Pink Hair is losing her mind because high-rank monsters escaping their dungeons is a total lore-breaking disaster. There's a peaceful village nearby that is about to get cooked for no reason. Miriam the Lake Fairy flies in to find Eugene. She looks okay, I guess, if you like wings and sparkles, but I'm clearly not a fan. The exit is blown wide open with blue light pouring through the hole. Miriam is screaming because the whole cavern is collapsing and she doesn't want to get flattened by a boulder. Eugene stands in the shadows looking like a literal demon king while Miriam tries to warn him. In the background, Galfredik is looking completely folded, riddled with spikes and covered in his own blood. Eugene is standing over his fallen meathead friend in total silence. Pink Hair is watching from the back, wondering if a vampire can actually mourn a human, or if he's just checking the expiration date. Eugene looks somber as he stares at the carnage. Pink Hair is busy analyzing the scene, confused how a vampire could pretend to be a knight and actually catch feelings for his squad. He leans in and sinks his fangs into Galfredik's neck to inject that noble blood. It's an intense moment, and Eugene looks terrifyingly hot doing it, but I'm definitely not glazing him right now. The monster is posing in front of a red moon like it's the star of a horror movie. Then it lands on the ground with enough force to crack the earth and notify the entire neighborhood. Bro is staring down at the tiny village from the mountain like it's a buffet. He roars with that chest eye glowing, and the villagers have no idea their life expectancy just dropped to 0. People in the town are looking at the red moon and are totally confused. Back in the cave, Pinkhair explains that Eugene is an Origin vampire, the highest-ranking noble in the race. She's giving a lore dump about how Origins can revive the dead as thralls. Eugene is listening while covered in blood, looking like he's ready to stand on business for his fallen bro. Eugene considers the cost while Pinkhair reminds him that making a thrall involves a savage bite and a blood transfer. It's a high-stakes move that usually ends with a mental collapse for the human. We see a flashback of an old man losing his mind during the process. Eugene tried this once before and it was a total fail. The human's mind just couldn't endure the juice. Pinkhair thinks it might work for a meathead like Galfredic because of his knightly willpower. We see the cosmic aura of Eugene's origin blood, looking like a literal god is about to intervene. If the willpower is strong enough, the human keeps their abilities instead of becoming a zombie. The only problem is that Galfredic might wake up and try to kill Eugene for the insult. Talk about a bad roommate. Eugene is staring at the bloody mess of his friend, feeling conflicted. He doesn't know how Galfredic feels about vampires, but bro is literally dead, so it's not like he can ask for a Yelp review. He remembers all the times they were bumping fists and laughing like true bros. They were standing on business together, and he's not ready to let that bond turn into a memory. Eugene's resolve is finally locked in as he looks down at his friend one last time. There aren't any other options left, so he's going all in on this revival gamble. He opens his mouth and shows off those fangs, leaning into the silhouette of a ritual. He's going to ask his friend directly by injecting his soul into the meathead's body. Eugene's eye is twitching because the blood is flowing way too fast for him to handle. His fangs won't even retract. Bro is losing control of the ritual and it's looking messy. The rite is officially beginning, and the rules are cold. A thrall is property. Under the rite of blood, the soul of the revived belongs entirely to the Lord. Red energy veins spread everywhere like a demonic map. A massive explosion of power goes off, blowing Pinkhair back as the inheritance process reaches its peak. Galfredic's body is getting blasted by red beams from the inside out. He's screaming in agony as his soul is getting a forced upgrade from the origin blood. A massive pillar of red light shoots into the sky, announcing to the whole world that something big just happened. Meanwhile, the village is already catching fire and people are running for their lives. Villagers are screaming about roamers while the labyrinth collapses around them. A giant spider monster leg steps into the street, and it's clear these guys are absolutely cooked. A flying monster just snatched a villager for a mid-air snack. Now the final boss is hovering over the crowd with its chest eye glowing, ready to fold the entire village. Lugettis is standing on the balcony like he actually did something, watching the village burn while Eugene is in the background doing all the heavy lifting. Bro really thinks he's the main character of this tragedy. Look at this fraud's face. Lugettis is yapping about payment while innocent people are running for their lives. It is a literal skill issue on his part for needing a whole labyrinth just to feel relevant. It turns out the entire Minotaur attack was a total setup because Lege's made a deal with the labyrinth to play hero. Bro has a literal cheat code on his hand just to farm some clout from the desperate villagers. He really thinks he's the messiah while the villagers are praying for their lives. His face is actually terrifying, and not in a cool way, just pure basement dweller energy and peak delusion. The monsters are finally out of the bag and the villagers are getting absolutely cooked. This one guy just folded immediately and fell face first into the dirt. RIP to him, I guess. A giant werewolf is about to turn this mother and kid into a midnight snack, and the POV is crazy. They are definitely about to see the game over screen if someone doesn't step in. Out of nowhere, a massive red slash deletes the wolf's entire vibe. Someone actually stood on business and delivered a blow that sent the monster flying before it could finish its meal. Eugene enters the chat and bro is an absolute savage, literally ripping a werewolf's jaw apart with his bare hands. No sword needed, just pure him energy and zero respect for the local wildlife. The werewolf gets turned into red mist as Eugene stands amidst the blood rain. The kid is hyped and the mom is in shock, but Eugene is just standing there like it's a regular Tuesday. Okay, look, Eugene is a vampire and he's fine, I guess. His hair is doing that flowing thing and he's got blood on his face, which is totally mid, but Lugettis is literally vibrating with fear. Lugettis is having a midlife crisis because he thought Eugene was a sacrifice. Instead, bro just came back with more aura than before. Imagine messing up a sacrifice that badly. Massive L for the fake messiah. Eugene is standing on the dead monster just to look down on this fraud, asking if his boss knows he's a snake. Lugides looks like he's about to cry in 4K. Eugene tells him it's time to pay the bill and he's about to get folded. But wait, a wild Galfredik appears behind him like a jump scare ready to crash out. Galfredik crashes through the rubble and scares the soul out of Lugides. Bro was really dying to see him, and now he's probably wishing he stayed in a labyrinth. Galfredik is back and he's looking for round 2, yabbing about his tournament humiliation. Bro is definitely crashing out tonight with those glowing pink eyes and fangs out. The villagers are running for their lives while Galfredik acts like a literal lawnmower for monsters. Eugene is also in the background just deleting mobs with zero effort. Another massive red energy slash comes out as Eugene's eye starts glowing. He's not even trying and the whole village is being cleared of the ops. The peasants finally notice the guy in the black armor doing all the work and realize it's Sir Yan Eugene. The glazing begins immediately because they think he's their savior. They are literally calling him the Messiah now, which means Lugides' entire scam just got hijacked by the actual main character. You truly love to see a fraud get exposed. Eugene launches a red nuke at the Minotaur to finish the job. The villagers are convinced he was sent from heaven, even though bro is a literal vampire. One final push and the Minotaur is getting sent back to the lobby. Eugene is looking locked in while the monster is literally coughing up its entire life bar. The landing is a 10/10 with fire and blood everywhere. Eugene looks like a literal god standing there, and the crowd is going absolutely feral for him. Lugides' little magic tattoo finally breaks and bro starts screaming in agony. His fake god status just expired and the Messiah is officially out of service. His followers see him failing and immediately dip because loyalty is a myth when you're a fraud. Lugides is left crawling on the floor like a total loser. Bro is still yapping about being the god of a new era even though he's on the ground. The delusion is at an all-time high and Galfredik is just standing over him like, "You done yet?" Lugides tries to swing his sword but Galfredik just snaps it with his bare hands. Bro is shocked that his plot armor didn't work. Massive skill issue. Lugides is wondering where this strength came from, clearly not realizing these two are built different. Eugene walks up behind them like the final boss he is. Galfredik bows to his master and waits for the word. Eugene looks down with those red eyes and drops the coldest line, "Leave none alive." Pure savage. Lugides finally realizes he's cooked and tries to beg, but Galfredik is already lunging. It's officially a wrap for the fake messiah and his ego. He's literally crying about how close he was to victory while Galfredik looms over him. "Close only counts in horseshoes, buddy. You're about to get deleted." Galfredik is grinning like a menace while Lugides tries to call them monsters. Bro is officially gone and nobody is going to miss his yapping. The sun finally rises over the church and the nightmare is over. The town is a mess, but at least the fraud is finally out of the picture. Eugene is walking through the streets like he's on a runway with flower petals everywhere. He doesn't even care about the hype, which is peak him behavior. Galfredik is just happy to be alive and the vibes are actually wholesome for a second. Just two bros walking into the sunset after a complete massacre. Suddenly, the mood changes because someone gets sprayed with water. It's Galfredik getting bullied by a tiny blue creature while he's just trying to exist. We're at a tea party now with a pink-haired girl, and Eugene is in a casual shirt looking fine, I guess. Miriam the lake fairy is yapping about being a great water spirit. Galfredik just grabs the fairy like a stress ball because he has zero respect for spirits. Eugene explains that humans can't usually see her, but Galfredik is a special case now. Eugene drops the bombshell. Galfredik is now a vampire thrall. Bro has to drink animal blood from now on. No more burgers for you, meathead. Galfredik is processing the no more sunlight rule and looking stressed. Miriam is trolling him, telling him he'll burn to a crisp the moment he steps out. Galfredik literally runs into the sun to check because he's an idiot. Miriam is screaming in terror while Eugene just sits there wondering why he picked this guy to be his right hand. Galfredik is standing there looking like a total lost puppy because the sun isn't turning him into a crisp. Pink Hair is doing the absolute most, explaining that Eugene is built different because he's an origin. Turns out regular vampires get cooked by the sun, but origins like Eugene are the CEOs of the day. Galfredik is just standing there processing the lore while Pink Hair keeps yapping. Eugene flexes his hand just to show off he's him, while Galfredik gets way too personal, putting his massive meathead hands on our boy's shoulder. This man Galfredick starts laughing like a dork, bringing up the time Eugene pretended to be an elf just to duck a duel. Honestly, the disrespect is crazy. Even the little fairy Murian is back there watching this comedy show. Eugene tries to act serious, but Galfredick is in full glaze mode, trying to call him you, like they're childhood sweethearts. Eugene's face is just a giant question mark right now. Pink Hair has to step in and tell this meathead to show some respect and call him master. Galfredick starts crashing out, claiming their best friend's first bro thinks he's on the team. We get a quick flashback to when everything went south. Eugene looking cold in his armor while Galfredick was kneeling in the dirt, basically a finished player. Eugene was standing on business, telling him that being a vampire comes with a subscription to threats and restrictions. He even told the guy he could leave if he felt betrayed. Absolute aura. Galfredick stares at the fresh bite marks on his neck, realizing he's officially off the human roster. It's a tough look, honestly. Instead of crying about it, the meathead decides he actually likes Eugene and doesn't mind the new lifestyle since his life was saved. Eugene stops walking, probably shocked this guy is so easy. Galfredick pulls a "I'll follow you for life" move with a bloody grin. Bro is dedicated to the glaze, I'll give him that. Back in the present, Eugene is secretly thinking about sewing this man's mouth shut if he doesn't stop with the best friend talk. Typical MC behavior. Suddenly, Galfredick remembers the side characters and asks about the yellow bowl-cut kid in Partek. Eugene explains he sent them on a secret mission, probably because they were being annoying. Meanwhile, a fancy letter from the monastery shows up. Jevon Everglow is sitting there looking way too handsome respectfully. He's a snake reading about how Eugene cleared out some cultists. We see Partek and Raban actually doing work for once, raiding the cultists and their illegal magic stones. Eugene saw right through their divine will act. Jevon is playing the part of the grateful lord, thinking about how his family honor was almost cooked by this unholy faction. He starts glazing Eugene, telling him his respect is reaching the heavens. Eugene just stands there looking like a model, accepting the hospitality like it's his birthright. Eugene is done with the politics and gets ready to dip, but Jevon has to get one last "congrats on your friend" line in. As soon as the door closes, Jevon's face goes dark. Bro is definitely plotting something devious. Look at those glowing eyes, that's a red flag if I ever saw one. The squad hits the tavern to celebrate, and the beer is flowing. Partek and the boys are hyped that Galfredick didn't actually die. Galfredick is out here crediting Master for his limbs being intact, and suddenly every thug in the room wants to join the fan club. Eugene hits them with the instant "I refuse." Skill issue. The meathead realizes his beer tastes like trash now because he has a vampire tongue. Rabin, meanwhile, is staring at Galfredick's pink eyes like they're a new TikTok filter. Galfredick gets all nostalgic for a second before putting Robin in a headlock. Robin's bowl cut is truly a tragedy. Someone get this kid a stylist. Partek mentions that Jevon looked surprised by the report. Eugene is listening closely, probably plotting his next 5 moves. Eugene gets that devious look on his face, wondering what exactly made the Lord so shook. Partek thinks they used the knight Lugetes as a scapegoat. Eugene explains that he basically manipulated the whole situation so House Everglow wouldn't have a reason to come for him. Big brain energy. He knew that if he gave them a small out, they'd just sacrifice Lugetes to save face. Now Jevon is the only one left who might try to slide on them. It's time to move. Eugene tells Partek they're leaving tonight, and they have to be sneaky about it. The squad is galloping through the forest at midnight, looking like they're running for their lives or just running to the next plot point. Suddenly, Raven starts screaming because they're surrounded by arrows. Total panic mode. Galfredick has to tell him to get his life together. We find out Lugetes was actually Jevon's favorite knight, and Eugene basically tarnished the Lord's honor by dealing with him. The ops are out for blood. Some hooded loser is talking big, saying he's going to mess up Eugene's pretty face. Excuse me? Nobody touches the face. Eugene doesn't even let the guy finish his sentence. He blitzes him so fast the guy's eyes can't even track him. Pretty? Boom, folded. Our boy Eugene is shouting orders while looking like an absolute stallion. The movement is too fast for these low-level mobs to handle. The mercenaries on the wagon are actually standing on business, pulling out bows and maces to defend the perimeter. Galfredick pulls out a massive saber and enters his demon arc. He's laughing because the people who thought they were surrounding Eugene are actually the ones getting boxed in. The attackers are instantly tied up and put on their knees. Absolute skill issue. Galfredick is back to glazing Eugene's swordsmanship. He's impressed by the saber work, wondering when Eugene became a pro at mounted combat. Eugene just looks at him like he's a genius. It turns out when Eugene bit the meathead, he downloaded all of Galfredic's combat experience into his own brain. Bro is literally using a cheat code. Galfredic is just confused. Eugene is standing there having a whole mental crisis because he's hearing voices from his past like a schizophrenic. He gets this vision of Galfredic and some mysterious lordly voice yapping about how thralls are just property. Bro is literally hearing the previous owner's voicemail while his red eye glows like a security camera. While Eugene is busy fighting his inner demons, some random old knight with an eye patch shows up to start a yap session. He's absolutely mauling because Galfredic is disrespecting some lord named Jebane. This old man is really standing on business for a boss who isn't even there, blaming Galfredic for almost dying in a dungeon. Talk about a skill issue. Eugene has zero patience for these NPCs. He looks over his shoulder with that "I will actually pack you up" stare and tells them to shut up. He offers to let exactly one of them live to tell the tale, ready to crash out on the spot. Galfredic has to play the voice of reason, stopping his master from catching a felony by suggesting they just treat these bums as prisoners of war instead. Galfredic tries to act all noble, glazing the idea as honoring brave enemies, like he's in a medieval drama. Eugene is just standing there unimpressed until the meathead drops the real punchline, ransom money. Suddenly, the vibe shifts. Galfredic pulls out a gold coin with a massive grin, basically confirming that these knights are just walking paychecks. Eugene stares at him with that cold, calculating look, realizing that as long as they have all their limbs, they're liquid assets. He asks intact limbs is the only requirement, and you just know it's over for those knights. Eugene grabs a massive wooden log like it's a pool noodle and prepares to give the prisoners a tutorial on staying quiet. The knights are absolutely cooked, sweating and screaming for mercy while Eugene promises not to hit their joints. The forest is immediately filled with the sounds of NPCs getting folded. Cut to later, and the old knight is literally weeping with joy while his face looks like a tenderized steak. He's sparkling because he's still alive. Slay Queen Emin, the branch manager, is standing there looking absolutely top tier in her white outfit. I'm only looking at her because she's professional, okay? She's thrilled that Eugene brought in generous prisoners to cover the bills. They walk through the city discussing business like the corporate demons they are. These knights are apparently high-value targets from House Everglow, so they're going to fetch a massive bag. Slay Queen is smiling because she knows the profit margins are looking insane. Eugene shows her his red and black armor, which has a massive hole right through the chest. He's low-key roasting the gear because it was supposed to be dragon-proof, but got punctured by a skewer. He asks for an upgrade and even tells her to hook up Galfredic with new drip too. Eugene claims he's just maintaining Galfredic's dignity as his subordinate, because him energy needs to be shared. Galfredic is glazing him so hard he's basically ascending to heaven, flexing his massive biceps and laughing. Slay Queen watches them, realizing she hit the jackpot by recruiting this duo. She's not even mad about the repair costs because Eugene keeps bringing in mountains of monster parts. Look at that pile of crates in the back, bro, is a literal loot magnet. She's definitely not skimming on the benefits for a customer this cracked. Slay Queen leans in and asks what the next move is. Eugene wants to go conquer high-tier dungeons because he's addicted to the grind. She points out that bigger dreams require a bigger bag, flashing a gorgeous smirk that I am definitely ignoring for professional reasons. She mentions a gambling house, which catches Eugene off guard for a second. Meanwhile, back at the Everglow mansion, Jevin is having a total meltdown, slamming his desk because his knights got captured like a bunch of bronze rank losers. Jevin is absolutely mauling. He's realizing that Eugene is way stronger than Lugetti's, and he's starting to fear the aura. The office is a mess, just like his reputation after his squad got folded. He's staring at his desk, contemplating his life choices, wondering if he should just leave Eugene alone. He's mad because Eugene packed up his land knight, but he knows he can't win a fair fight. Suddenly, he spots something on a map. He realizes Eugene is traveling through zones under contract with the Palin Trading Company. Bro is actually doing detective work to stalk the MC. Jevin gets that creepy shark grin because he's finally figured out the itinerary. He knows exactly where Eugene is going to show up next. It's giving obsessed hater energy. The map zooms in on the Philia ruins. The scene shifts to a massive sailing ship moving through a peninsula. Galfredic notes that the church has zero power here, which is a massive W for a vampire who doesn't want to get exorcised. Galfredic explains the history of the place, talking about some tyrant marquis who lost his trust. Eugene thinks it's a complicated situation, which is just code for easy to exploit. Galfredic is just vibing in his tank top, looking like he's on a summer vacation. Suddenly, Mirian starts screaming about a dying mage. It turns out pink hair is absolutely cooked by seasickness, puking a literal rainbow over the side of the boat. Imagine being a high-level mage and getting defeated by a wave. Skill issue. Galfredic is roasting her for following them if she can't handle a little rocking. She admits through her nausea that she needs mid to high-rank monster parts for her chimera research. She's a total weirdo, but at least she's honest about the grind. She starts yapping about her ultimate mission and swears loyalty to Eugene. Mirian is laying on Eugene's shoulder being a total hater, calling her so suspicious. Galfredek is basically telling Eugene not to throw her overboard yet. Mirian reveals she's only here for the gold coins because even spirits need to pay rent apparently. Galfredek just laughs, glazing Eugene by saying everyone follows him because they recognize he's the GOAT. Even the mercenaries are enjoying the cruise. Partek is absolutely folding Rabin in an arm wrestling match while casually drinking a bottle of booze. Rabin is struggling for his life while everyone else just cheers for the disrespect. Galfredek finally asks Eugene what his actual end goal is. Eugene stares out at the ocean looking way too hot, giving us that peak main character profile shot that has the ladies and the spirits shaking. Eugene drops the heavy lore, memory, and revenge. He needs to find out who he was and get strong enough to not die miserably like he did in his last life. The vibes just got 100% more serious. He remembers the holy knight who ended his previous run. The church is his biggest op, and he's not letting his guard down for a second. Galfredek stays quiet, finally realizing his master is playing for keeps. Galfredek breaks the tension by being a total bro, saying he doesn't care about the goal as long as he's following his master. He's just here for the fun and the fights, looking absolutely jacked while he says it. He glazes the career advancement of traveling in the sunlight and seeing the world instead of being dead. Honestly, the meathead has a point. It's a massive upgrade from his previous life. Galfredek looks Eugene dead in the eye and says, "Your purpose is my purpose." He's literally the ultimate subordinate, pledging to follow orders wherever they go. Eugene is just standing there, probably touched by the loyalty. Mirian immediately ruins the moment by simping for Eugene and yelling about how much she likes being by his side. Pink Hair and the mercenaries all join in, promising their loyalty. It's basically a fan club meeting on a boat now. Eugene tells Pink Hair her loot depends on her work ethic, making her groan. He's realizing he's basically the captain of a daycare for high-tier weirdos, but he's standing on business anyway. He gazes out with those deep red eyes, realizing that having all these troublesome people to protect actually feels kind of good. Bro is finally catching feelings for his squad. They dock at the port city of Mawfern. A new mercenary leader named Baron meets them at the pier. He looks like a generic soldier who thinks he's him, but he's just here to escort the noble to the next zone. Baron wants to move out immediately because the schedule is tight. Eugene just gives a cool and agrees. The whole squad is behind him, looking like they're about to raid a server. The squad rides out on horses, trotting through a sunny forest. They're heading to Beelgalan Barony, where the magic zones are actually being run properly for once. Baron explains that a wyvern has been trolling the local hunters for months. It uses harpies as bait to exhaust everyone before it swoops in for the kill. Total rat behavior from a high-rank monster. Eugene is already thinking about the red magic stone drop like a true gamer. Baron warns them about bandits and says it's better to just pay a toll. Bro is already planning to surrender before the fight even starts. Baron remembers his boss telling him not to treat Eugene carelessly. He's looking at the MC and thinking he's just a pampered noble who's going to get packed up by bandits. The level of underestimation is actually insane. He thinks Galfredek is the only strong one and that Eugene is just a fraud using him for fame. Mirian is hovering there sensing the disrespect immediately, warning Eugene that this Baron guy is a total clown who shouldn't be trusted. Skill issue incoming for the mercenaries. Eugene suddenly stops his horse because his vampire senses are literally off the charts, and honestly, the aura in this shot is enough to pay my rent. He's just sitting there looking majestic while the leaves fall, sensing the ops before they even have a chance to breathe. Bro doesn't even hesitate and tells Galfredek to hand over the spear while the generic Baron Knight looks absolutely lost. Galfredek is all smiles because he knows his master is about to cook, and Eugene winds up for a throw that's definitely going to violate some health and safety codes. The spear flies and absolutely folds a bandit hiding in the bushes, catching him in 4K and pinning him to the dirt like a bug. The other bandits are completely shook, realizing that trying to ambush this man was the biggest skill issue of their entire lives. The lead bandit realizes their cover is blown and decides to crash out, ordering the whole squad to charge with their mid-weapons and zero plan. It's a whole mob of fodder thinking they can actually touch the MC, which is honestly just embarrassing to watch. The Baron is sweating like he's in a sauna, wondering how Eugene noticed a silent ambush when he couldn't see a single thing. Eugene doesn't have time for NPC questions and tells the man to stay back and protect the carriage while he handles the heavy lifting. The Baron is still yapping about paying a toll to avoid a fight because he's terrified of taking an L, but Eugene just looks back with a smirk. He tells the man he worries too much, standing on business while looking insanely good doing it. I mean, he's alright, I guess. Without another word, Eugene and Galfredik launch their horses forward like they're racing for the last slice of pizza. The Baron is left in the dust, drawing his sword and complaining about prideful nobles because he finally realized he's actually going to have to fight for once. Eugene charges straight into the heart of the bandit horde like a one-man army, his cape billowing behind him like he's him. The Baron thinks he's being irresponsible, but it's really just a massive gap in power and aesthetic.